Chapter 1804. No, my son will be fine. Du Tingxian stared at the void, his fists clenched tightly. His fingernails dug into his palms, causing blood to seep out. His sharp eyes were filled with conviction. Back in the Divine Dominion, he had seen with his own eyes that his son was still fine even after being blasted apart. Now, he would definitely be fine too. However, at this moment, above the void, there was a large blade made of green light, a pair of true dragon horns, 36 true rock feathers, and a broadsword that everyone recognized. That broadsword was the purple gold heavenly tower, the divine weapon of the demon king Du Xiaofu. It had once killed countless experts. There was even a round ball of light and a strange lightning lotus. This is the old master's 9 revolutions divine Lei Lian. No wonder this brat's comprehension of the profound meaning of lightning surpasses others. Old Lei recognized the 9 revolutions divine Lei Lian. His eyes rippled violently. That was one of the 3 treasures that Jinlei Tensei carried with him. However, at this moment, these treasures seemed to have lost control, becoming ownerless objects. No one from legalism went up to fight for them. They were still staring at the void above. However, their gazes were filled with passion. Some of them secretly exchanged glances. Once they had the chance, they would not hold back anymore. Any one of those treasures was an absolute treasure, especially the divine thunder cauldron. It had already been targeted by many of the legalism's hidden auras. Has the demon king Du Xiaofu really fallen? Far away in the void, many of the onlookers were stunned. The demon king had created countless miracles and shocked the world. Could it be that he had really stopped at legalism? All of this happened in just a few minutes. Boom! Suddenly, a trembling sound rang out in the silent void. It was like a bolt of fierce thunder that had come out of nowhere. This trembling sound immediately attracted the attention of everyone present. Immediately, numerous gazes looked towards the void. They were bewildered as they searched everywhere for something. In the silent void, the remnants of broken runes flickered, and at this moment, some purple electric arcs began to overflow. And within this, one could feel an extremely terrifying aura. It was as if a sleeping ferocious rock was slowly awakening. There was also a familiar tyrannical aura that was awakening. Elder Lei and Elder Huang's expressions changed rapidly as they stared at the sky. Especially when he felt that familiar domineering aura, a hint of surprise flashed across Elder Lei's face. On the other hand, Old Huang was extremely shocked. The expression on his aged face changed greatly. It's his aura. When that familiar domineering aura spread out, Du Xiaoyao, Little Xingxing, Du Xiaoqing, Zhen Qingchun, and Mo Tianxiao's eyes immediately flashed with unconcealable joy. It's the Rock Emperor's aura. He's not dead, he's definitely not dead. Thunderhawk King, Ghost Chariot, and the others were pleasantly surprised. Their bodies trembled. Just now, they didn't make too much noise because they had seen too many miracles. The Rock Emperor definitely wouldn't fall so easily. The Rock Emperor is still alive. When that familiar domineering aura spread out, it immediately caused an uproar in the desolate country's lineup. The entire school of legalism fell into an uproar because of this sudden change. Strange changes appeared on their faces. Ouyang Shuang was pleasantly surprised as she looked at the sky. The purple lightning arc was getting brighter and brighter. She could feel that the familiar aura was getting denser. Feeling that familiar aura and movement, Du Tingxuan's handsome face was also filled with excitement. What a terrifying aura! When that familiar aura spread out, that domineering aura grew stronger and stronger. It made Du Yunlong, Yi Piaoling, and the others' faces change as they had no choice but to retreat once again. Walala, just as everyone retreated once again, the remnant runes in the sky flickered with golden light and golden blood appeared. It was a dense blood mist that didn't disperse. It was connected to the violet gold heavenly tower, the 9 revolutions divine Lei Lian, and the others. A terrifying aura erupted like a volcano as it gushed out from it. In the end, it condensed together under everyone's shocked gazes. Boom! A sudden thunder shook the entire sky plains and spread throughout Kyushu. Even Kyushu could feel it. What happened? Is there a change in the world? Or has the great calamity of the world begun? Above Kyushu, many old figures appeared in the sky from various provinces. They were calculating something with their fingers. In the end, they raised their heads to look at the sky with astonishment in their eyes. Whoosh whoosh, following that, many figures crossed the sky and headed towards the sky plains. Walala, on the sky plains, when the blood mist that didn't disperse gathered together, the bright purple lightning arc lit up the sky like a sun. Rumble, suddenly, the sound of thunder was deafening. Above the sky, it was as if a sea of lightning had appeared. Lightning poured down like a long river and appeared in the sky continuously. A terrifying aura made all the living creatures' hair stand on end and they were filled with endless respect. What the hell is going on? Everyone was shocked. They had never seen such a shocking scene before. The frightening lightning caused even old Lei and old Huang to feel fear. It was easy to imagine the pressure the others felt at this moment. That's Brother Xiaofu recovering. I can feel Brother Xiaofu's aura. In the Du family, Du Shui exclaimed. Her beautiful face was filled with excitement. Under the lightning aura, the thunder martial vein in her body involuntarily covered her. That's Brother Xiaofu's aura. Therefore, the disciples of the Du family covered their thunder martial veins. They were all very excited. In the long river of lightning, they could clearly feel the familiar aura. Crackle, lightning fluctuated. From the bright river of lightning, a tall and straight figure gradually appeared. His body was naked, but he was wrapped in bright lightning arcs. His naked body couldn't be seen. His black hair was wrapped in dazzling lightning arcs. His eyes were slightly closed as he looked at the sky. His face was resolute and determined. When such a figure appeared, although he was wrapped in lightning, he was clearly made of flesh and blood. Immediately, the faces of the disciples of the legalism froze. It's Du Xiaofu. He's not dead. In an instant, the disciples of the legalism school exclaimed and turned pale with fright. At this moment, such a man made of flesh and blood. If it wasn't Du Xiaofu who was just blasted into pieces, who else could it be? He had clearly just died to the point where he could not be any more dead. His body had been shattered, but now, he had appeared before them alive. How could the disciples of legalism not be shocked by such a sight? It's Du Xiaofu. The demon king Du Xiaofu isn't dead. In the distant void, the spectators trembled as they witnessed this terrifying scene with their own eyes. Why? Why isn't he dead yet? The elders, protectors, and experts of the legalism school were just rejoicing. Although they had lost ancestor Li Qinfa, they had finally killed a huge threat. However, at this moment, they couldn't accept such an unforeseen event. Could it be that he can't be killed? The young men of the legalism school turned pale and their scalps went numb. Such a demon king was too terrifying. He was simply a demon that couldn't be killed. Crackle, in the surrounding void, some of the experts of the domain realm on Kyushu school appeared in the sky plane. They all rushed over. What's going on? Legalism and the desolate country. Is that Du Xiaofu? In a short time, experts and old figures from all over Kyushu school rushed over and witnessed this unbelievable scene. They saw a tall and straight figure standing amidst the dazzling lightning in the long river of lightning. Demon King Du Xiaofu. It's really him. The eyes of the Kyushu experts were suffused with divine light. At this moment, they sensed that terrifying aura on the demon king Du Xiaofu's body. Something must have happened. Boom, another thunderous boom rang out, causing the souls of all living beings to tremble. In the void, dense lightning filled the sky. With Du Xiaofu as the center, a void 8 trigrams diagram appeared. Divine might filled the sky as strange phenomena pervaded the air and transformed into a world of its own. Screech, the rock's cry pierced through the clouds and cracked stones. From behind Du Xiaofu, a purple-gold thunder rock emerged from the dazzling lightning arcs. It occupied the void, shaking the sky and covering the sun. The void collapsed as purple lightning intertwined. It was a terrifying scene. The purple-gold thunder rock was evolved from the profound meaning of thunder and lightning and the rock's beast energy. It was so powerful that living beings with insufficient cultivation couldn't resist it at all. Their legs went soft, and the beasts found it even harder to resist. They roared and crawled. Rumble, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled as the void surged. From between heaven and earth, the dazzling long river of lightning turned into endless energy and poured into Du Xiaofu's body. When the lightning fluctuations were irrigated, it was so dazzling that living beings couldn't open their eyes. It was extremely dazzling. On the void 8 trigrams diagram, all kinds of strange phenomena were born and changed. They were all nurturing endless changes. Mountains and rivers towered, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, ferocious beasts roared, ferocious birds soared into the sky, and galaxies rotated, endless pressure covered the sky and covered the earth, and runes drowned the void. Below the void, all the living beings' faces changed. Such a scene was too shocking and terrifying. Gee, on Du Xiaofu's back, the huge purple-gold thunder rock let out a cry, and the sound of it piercing through clouds and splitting rocks resounded. Chi. Then, everyone saw the huge purple-gold thunder rock above the long river of lightning. Its eyes were like the sun, and the dazzling light was like lightning shooting into the sky. Countless lightning bolts connected with the purple-gold thunder rock, causing the void to distort. In the next instant, the huge body of the purple-gold thunder rock suddenly burst out with dazzling light, and an incomparably domineering aura spread out like a tide, sweeping across the void. As the mighty aura fluctuated, the tall youth wrapped in lightning opened his eyes at the same time in the long river of lightning. The gaze in his eyes was like the most dazzling lightning. His black hair fluttered in the wind, but it was wrapped in lightning. That tall and straight figure was a resolute and determined man. At this moment, he was like a holy celestial emperor. Step by step, he soared through the air and landed on the head of the purple-gold thunder rock. Chapter 1805. Then, the resolute and determined man's hair flew backward. His black hair slowly turned white, and then it turned black. His face also aged and was covered with wrinkles. But soon after, it recovered and became smooth and sparkling again. Everything seemed to be alternating and going through reincarnation. However, with each cycle, the aura on his body grew stronger, becoming even more vast and vigorous. Whoosh, such a man stood on the purple-gold thunder rock's head. Lightning flashed in the sky and the void churned violently. He was alternating between reincarnations and also devouring lightning. The scene was horrifying. Everyone was dumbstruck. This was the first time they had seen such a scene in their lives. Such a demon king was devouring lightning. He was undergoing an astonishing transformation. That's not lightning, that's the energy of heaven and earth. Someone whispered in shock. That terrifying aura pervaded the air. That huge purple-gold thunder rock was in the sky and suppressed all living things. It was as if a giant boulder was crushing down on their hearts. His aura is still strengthening. He's breaking through. Someone said with a trembling gaze. At this moment, all the experts present had mixed feelings. That man was not very old. At most, he was not even 30 years old. However, they had cultivated for at least thousands of years, hundreds of years, or even thousands of years. But now, when they felt that kind of aura, their hearts were in turmoil. Such a junior is making his peers despair. He's making us ashamed. An old man said in the distance and sighed helplessly. Such a junior suppressed his peers until they couldn't raise their heads. Any genius compared to him was like a firefly competing with the moon. It was simply a tragedy compared to him. It was the greatest misfortune for the current generation's geniuses and supreme beings to be in the same generation as him. As for the older generation, when compared to him, they were even more ashamed, unable to show their faces. Boom, on the purple gold thunder rock's head, Du Xiaofu's aura became more and more vigorous in a short period of time, causing the void to rumble. Endless energy of heaven and earth descended from the void as if pouring down from the 9 heavens. It turned into a resplendent lightning beam and enveloped Du Xiaofu. When the vast energy landed on Du Xiaofu's body, it caused the lightning wrapped around Du Xiaofu's body to tremble violently. The hair behind his head no longer changed and his face no longer aged. It seemed to be even more sparkling and translucent. Boom! At the same time, from Du Xiaofu's body, a new vast aura swept across the sky like a storm. Feeling the vastness of the aura, Elder Lei's eyes trembled. He took a deep breath and said with a slightly trembling voice, "This aura. It's reincarnation nirvana. Reincarnation nirvana." At this moment, all the experts and elders present were dumbfounded. The Rock Emperor is breaking through and stepping into reincarnation nirvana. In the desolate country, Yi Wuming, Gong Dao, and the other elders trembled in incomparable surprise. That's reincarnation nirvana. At this moment, to the people of legalism, their eyes twitched as the most incredulous expression appeared on their faces. How could they have imagined that not only did Du Xiaofu not die after the price of Patriarch Li Qinfa's self-detonation, but he had also broken through to the true reincarnation nirvana level and displayed his peerless glory. The nirvana supremacy stage was equivalent to the domain realm. However, everyone knew that a true nirvana sovereign was definitely not someone an ordinary domain realm cultivator could compare to. Since ancient times, the further a nirvana sovereign reached, the more powerful and rare they were, and the more difficult it was to cultivate. However, any nirvana sovereign was an absolutely terrifying existence that could sweep across their peers and conquer the world. Although at the beginning, everyone knew that Du Xiaofu was a half-step rebirth realm cultivator, now that he had stepped into the true nirvana realm, it was like the difference between a half-saint and a true saint realm cultivator. There was a world of difference between them. Rock Emperor. In the desolate country's lineup, the experts trembled and their eyes were moist. How could their Rock Emperor be so easily defeated? At this moment, he had stepped into the true nirvana realm and shocked Kyushu. How glorious was that! The purple gold thunder rock spread its wings and a long river of lightning surged. Du Xiaofu stepped on the purple gold thunder rock's head, which was surrounded by the beast energy of the golden-winged great rocks and the mysteries of lightning. He was calm and domineering, arrogant and confident. At this moment, his figure was as immovable as a mountain, and his radiance was boundless and shook the heavens. Everyone was shocked. Such a man was a freak of nature that could shock the world. All living beings in the world go through life and death. So, this is the cycle of reincarnation. Du Xiaofu spoke and shook his arm. The void 8 trigrams turned into ancient runes and disappeared into the void. The purple gold thunder rock that covered the sky also slowly disappeared. As the void 8 trigrams and the purple gold thunder rock disappeared, the terrifying pressure also quickly dissipated and no longer suppressed the hearts of the crowd. It's too scary. Many of the living beings stood up from the ground. Many of the demonic beasts and cultivators who were not strong enough had collapsed to the ground. At this moment, all of them still had lingering fears. As everything disappeared, the lightning radiance on Du Xiaofu's body also gradually faded. At the same time, a light purple robe appeared in his Qiankuan bag and covered his body. It did not allow his body to be exposed. In the end, the figure completely appeared in front of everyone, and his eyes regained their clarity. Phew, Du Xiaofu stretched slightly and spat out a mouthful of turbid air accompanied by electric arcs. Feeling the power and changes in his body, Du Xiaofu's lips curled into a smile. After being pulled in by Li Qinfa's self-destruction, Du Xiaofu was not too worried when his physical body was blown apart. His primordial spirit was fighting against the flag of the martial sage. With the immortal Xian body, he could recover. However, with the immortal Xian body, it was equivalent to suffering a heavy blow when his physical body was blown apart. He also had to pay a price. There was no free lunch in the world. And just as his physical body was blown apart, Du Xiaofu also felt an aura of death from the bottom of his heart. He went through life and death and touched death. However, at this moment, Du Xiaofu suddenly had an epiphany and turned it into an opportunity. Du Xiaofu had always been at the half-step reincarnation nirvana level and was unable to break through to the next level. With this opportunity, he comprehended the reincarnation nirvana level and stepped into the next level, obtaining a great opportunity. If Li Qinfa knew that the price of his self-destruction was not only not killing Du Xiaofu in the end, but also turned into an opportunity for Du Xiaofu to break through to the true reincarnation nirvana level, he would rather be tortured to death than drag Du Xiaofu down with him. He broke through to the true reincarnation nirvana level. Looking at Du Xiaofu in the void, the eyes of the legalism disciples trembled. The Demon King Du Xiaofu was already so terrifying when he was only at the half-step reincarnation nirvana level. He was able to fight head-on with Ancestor Li Qinfa. At this moment, the Demon King Du Xiaofu had already stepped into the true reincarnation nirvana level. The improvement in his strength had probably increased exponentially. How powerful would he be? Those at the same level of cultivation would not be a match for the Demon King at all. Du Xiaofu clenched his fists and felt the power that was as vast as the ocean in his body. Suddenly, his clear eyes stared at the Warlock Saint flag in the sky, which had been facing off against the purple thunder profound cauldron, and his body emitted a golden glow. This flag is not bad, Du Xiaofu spoke. On his resolute face, his eyes were deep and unfathomable. There wasn't the slightest ripple of emotion in them, but rather a formless aura of power. Finally, as his silhouette shot through the air, he shook his arm. In an instant, boundless golden light shot out, shaking the heavens and transforming into the rock's chaos-crushing claw. Du Xiaofu's claw distorted the entire void. In the golden radiance, there seemed to be a golden-winged rock whistling out. Everywhere it passed, pitch-black cracks appeared in the space, which then recovered. Reincarnation nirvana is so powerful. Such a claw caused huge waves to appear in Elder Huang's eyes. That claw caused waves to appear in his heart. In an instant, Du Xiaofu's claw pressed down on the Dharma Saint flag. The golden radiance covered the sky and distorted the void. Du Xiaofu wanted to imprison the Dharma Saint flag. A Dharma Saint flag that could confront the purple lightning profound cauldron was definitely a rare treasure. Boom! Suddenly, at this moment, the Warlock Saint's flag moved. In an instant, the flag unfurled, and a bright light shone. With the power of a strange phenomenon, the light covered the sun and collided with Du Xiaofu's claw. Chapter 1806. Boom! This kind of collision made one's soul tremble. Dazzling runes bloomed one after another, covering the void. Energy surged violently, as if the sky and earth were being turned upside down. Walala, the void cracked all around, and one after another, materialized spatial cracks hung in the sky, interweaving in the sky. Ka, the plains below were cracking apart everywhere, forming a horrifying scene. How shocking was this? Legalism's disciples, return quickly. An old voice came from the void passage. This voice seemed to have come from ancient times, resounding above the void. Walala, the void passage that was originally revealed when the spatial wormhole exploded also began to slowly merge at this moment, beginning to isolate legalism's space from the outside world. It's the divine ancestor. The old man from legalism raised his head. That was the voice of their divine ancestor. It seemed that their divine ancestor had come out of seclusion, but they could only hear his voice and not see him. Quick, go back quickly. The current supremacy and the old supremacy spoke at the same time, ordering their disciples to return immediately. Once the space was blocked, they wouldn't be able to enter even if they wanted to. Legalism only had that one spatial wormhole to enter and exit. Now that the spatial wormhole was destroyed, the void passage was the only way. Whoosh whoosh, in an instant, the disciples of legalism turned around and hurriedly entered legalism, not daring to stay. Such a demon king was too terrifying. They couldn't kill him even if they wanted to, causing fear to grow in their hearts. Sage Realm. In the void, Du Xiaofu stepped on the air. The old voice came from the Sage Realm expert. He was the one who activated the Sage flag to stop his own collapse. Kill. Their Sage Realm experts don't dare to make a move. Don't let these bastards escape. Little Xingxing's young voice shouted loudly. Seeing the disciples of legalism retreat in panic, the little figure immediately soared into the sky. Golden flames spread out, burning the void and distorting space. If we don't kill them now, when will we? Du Xiaoyao also made his move. His golden clothes fluttered, his spirit eyes glowed, and his aura swept through the void. Boom! Zhen Qingchun didn't say anything. He directly activated the 6 wheels blood-killing array, and a monstrous blood aura spread out. A Wu, Mo Tianxiao, Thunderhawk King, Mia Meng King, Yun Zhan, and Gue Che roared and charged forward. Kill! Yi Piaoling, Du Yunlong, Ouyang Shuang, and Du Hao all stepped out and pounced towards the legalism disciples. They didn't want the legalism disciples to escape. Quick, go back. Looking at the desolate nation's situation, the old man from legalism and the sovereign lords had lost their confidence to continue fighting. Han Aoshi had been severely injured, the patriarch of Li Qinfa had been killed, and Du Xiaofu had made another breakthrough. Legalism is inviolable. The old voice reverberated in the void. The sorcerer's saint flag spread out and covered the void like a sea of clouds. In an instant, it blocked the path to the legalism void. Strange phenomena appeared in the sky as runes shone brightly. The sorcerer's saint flag blocked all the attacks from the desolate country's experts with great power. Let go of my wife and daughter. Otherwise, I won't rest until I die. Du Tingxian made his move. Dazzling lightning radiance radiated outwards as a resplendent lightning armor instantly enveloped his body. Lightning radiance permeated the air as a misty energy swirled around him. His eyes were incomparably sharp as killing intent gushed out from them. Boom! Du Tingxian activated all the 9 divine rings of the great sovereign and the lightning martial vein. A dazzling lightning spear shot out from his hand. At this moment, the lightning runes, the great sovereign force, and the lightning martial vein of the Du family intertwined together to form a spear light that shot towards the sorcerer saint flag in front of him. Boom! Boom! Du Tingxian waved his spear like a dragon soaring through the 4 seas. The wind and clouds changed, the void trembled, and heaven and earth lost their color. Strange phenomena appeared in the sky. Du Xiaoyao made his move. Golden light shone as he punched out. It was as if heaven and earth had been created. Little Xingxing punched out. Golden flames wrapped around his small fist. Wherever his fist passed, the space shattered inch by inch. Mo Tianxiao tore through the void with his claw. Spatial cracks filled the sky. At this moment, these terrifying attacks were all engulfed by the warlock saint flag. Whoosh, this kind of collision caused the void to become blurry. It was too terrifying. However, this terrifying attack was completely blocked by the sorcerer saint flag. Although everyone's attacks had overturned the sorcerer saint flag, they did not break through and were blocked by it. At some point in time, Elder Lei and Elder Huang had already collided with each other silently. However, the moment they collided, the void became blurry. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. The void shattered, and the planes were torn apart. It was a shocking scene. The confrontation between the two of them seemed to break through the restrictions of the void. It was as if two ancient powerhouses had awakened and were fighting fiercely in the present world. Rumble, the purple lightning profound cauldron was activated. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. A vast expanse of thunderclouds rolled in the sky. Bolts of lightning filled the palpitating lightning. The entire sky seemed to have instantly turned dark before dawn. A monstrous aura spread out from the purple thunderclouds. It rippled in this space, causing the entire space to tremble. Such a terrifying aura caused a chill to spread from the bottom of everyone's heart. In the face of this shocking lightning power, even their primordial spirits trembled. After Du Xiaofu had broken through, the power of the purple lightning profound cauldron had increased by several times. Rumble. Everything happened in an instant. As the purple thunderclouds churned, bolts of lightning suddenly burst out of the thunderclouds. Dazzling silver light poured down. Countless purple thunderbolts descended from the sky and blasted violently towards the sorcerer saint flag. Terrifying energy fluctuations spread out from the purple thunderbolts. The surrounding space cracked inch by inch as the electric light filled the air. Crackle. The earth-shattering purple thunderbolts bombarded the sorcerer saint flag. The entire space was filled with sharp sonic booms. Wherever the thunderbolts passed, the space also collapsed with a loud bang, causing the sorcerer saint flag to retreat. Du Xiaofu exploded. He attacked with all his might, wanting to destroy the sorcerer saint flag. He wanted to leave the people of legalism behind and start a massacre. He wanted to force the legalism to hand over his mother and sister, Xiao Jing. Legalism will remember all of this. It won't be long before you pay 10 times the price. Within the legalism, the old voice rippled, revealing an ice-cold intent. Crackle, the sorcerer saint flag exploded. Runes covered the sky and covered the earth. The stars rotated, and the shadows of beasts roared. All kinds of strange phenomena appeared in the sky. The purple lightning profound cauldron was also slowly shrinking. However, at this moment, the void within the legalism was also shrinking. When the last few figures rushed in panic, the void passage was only the size of a wormhole and was still shrinking. Aoshi, quickly retreat, the revered lord shouted, causing Han Aoshi, whose face was pale and whose vitality had not dissipated, to return to the legalism. Han Aoshi stood in the void, his face ashen. He had seen everything from before. From afar, he looked at Du Xiaofu, who was controlling the purple lightning profound cauldron to fight against the sorcerer saint flag. The corners of his mouth curled up into a cold smile, and he said, Du Xiaofu, I misjudged you back then. But remember, even if you destroy legalism one day, you will not be able to destroy the orthodoxy of legalism. You will never be able to escape the fact that you also have the bloodline of legalism in your body. You still have my spiritual root of legalism in your body. You will never be able to escape, ha 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 ha. His laughter was hollow, echoing amidst the thunder and lightning. The laughter stopped abruptly. The revered lord pulled Han Aoshi back to the legalism. Although the divine ancestor had come out of seclusion, at this moment, the experts of legalism all knew that the experts of the Saint Plane could not do anything. At this moment, the divine ancestor was only controlling the sorcerer saint flag to protect everyone as they entered the legalism. The old revered lord was at the back. When he looked back at the scene in front of him, his face was incomparably gloomy. The desolate country had killed their way to the door of legalism, but they could only retreat. With such an encounter, was legalism's luck really up? Sigh, Elder Huang and Elder Lei separated from the void. Amidst the vast and mighty lightning, Elder Huang sighed and finally entered the void passage. There will be a day when all of this will end. An old voice sounded from the void passage. The sorcerer saint flag covered the passage and blocked all the attacks. In the end, it slowly disappeared into the void passage. Bang, 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 Du Xiaoyao, Little Xingxing, Du Tingxian, Mo Tianxiao, and all the others' attacks exploded in the void. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, mighty, but all traces of legalism had completely disappeared. The void returned to normal, and the wormhole disappeared. Legalism and the void were completely isolated. The wormhole has been destroyed. Unless we can open up this space, we can't enter. Elder Lei said. Destroying the wormhole was equivalent to destroying the passage to legalism. Do they want to enter and never come out? Du Yunlong's cloud robe fluttered as he frowned slightly. No, with the foundation of legalism and the experts of the Saint Plane, they can open up a new wormhole when the time comes. It's just that they have to pay a great price, Du Tingxian said. They have isolated the space, and no one can do anything to them. It's difficult for ordinary experts of the Saint Plane to break through the space and force their way in. Elder Lei said, and the lightning in his eyes gradually disappeared. Dad! They escaped again. That strange banner is really extraordinary. It's a treasure. Little Xingxing and Du Xiaoyao went to Du Xiaofu's side, and they were filled with hatred. Du Xiaofu put away the purple lightning profound cauldron and looked at the void. His eyes flickered with golden light. In the end, he didn't get to see his mother and sister as he wished. Let's go back. At least this time, we didn't come out empty-handed. Du Tingxian stood beside Du Xiaofu and patted Du Xiaofu's shoulder gently. He looked deep into the void and said, I hope the next time we come won't be too far away. Saint Plane, Du Xiaofu's eyes flickered with a trace of fluctuation. If he could reach that level, he might be able to directly enter legalism. However, Du Xiaofu knew very well that even if he had stepped into the true Nirvana realm, he still didn't have that qualification. But this time, although he didn't get to see his mother and sister, he was able to step into the true Nirvana realm and kill Li Chenfa. Han Aoshi was also severely injured and probably wouldn't live for long. Such a harvest wasn't small, and Du Xiaofu didn't feel too regretful. After a while, Du Xiaofu said, let's go. We'll go back first. Chapter 1807. More than 10 days had passed since the experts of the desolate country besieged legalism. But in these 10 days, the news of the desolate country besieging legalism and forcing the legalism to flee in defeat and remain in seclusion swept through Kyushu like a storm, then the 3 continents, the Beast region, the 4 seas, Wudong Mountain and other places. Han Aoshi's heart had been dug out, and the ancestor of legalism, Li Chenfa, had self-destructed. Everywhere this news spread, it shook. The desolate country has already become so powerful. The world was shaken, and the experts sighed. More than 10 years ago, the desolate country was still unknown, but in such a short time, it had reached the point where it could besiege one of the 9 great clans, legalism. This kind of growth speed was absolutely unprecedented and would never be surpassed in the future. Du Xiaofu's breakthrough in battle, stepping into the cycle of nirvana, was also the talk of countless people. Such a demon king suppressed all his peers, crushing the heavenly prides and supremes of his generation to the point where they could no longer raise their heads. Some of the elders and experts could only sigh. Such a junior, in such a short time of cultivation, had already surpassed them by far. Sunset, dusk. The last rays of the setting sun shone upon the stone city. The sunset cast a golden glow, accompanied by the glow of the grass of immortality in dark seeker grass. Everything was like a dream. Behind the Du family's mountain, on a towering mountain peak. On the rock, Du Xiaofu sat upright. His black hair was soft, and his jade-like hair was leaning against his shoulder. A faint fragrance wafted into his nose along with the wind. A gentle breeze blew. It was early autumn. Occasionally, a few pale yellow leaves drifted down, but they stayed far away from the two of them, as if they couldn't bear to disturb this rare moment of peace. From dusk to sunset, a few broken stars hung in the sky, and the bright moon gradually climbed into the sky. Under the moonlight, Yang Shuang leaned gently against Du Xiaofu's shoulder, feeling the familiar warmth. She was lazy and didn't want to get up. Softly, she said, "Do you still remember the first time we met?" "Yes, we had a fight and you bit my nose." Du Xiaofu smiled and hugged the woman beside him. He looked at the moon and thought back to the past. But he didn't expect that the two of them would be together now. How mysterious was fate. Ouyang Shuang smiled faintly. Her smile was like a flower, able to hook one's soul. After that, she softly said, "Sometimes, I wonder how good it would be if I had Qingqing or little Xingxing's talent. Then, I would be able to stand beside you and fight alongside you." Hearing this, Du Xiaofu lifted his head and cupped the beautiful face beside him. His eyes were shining as he said, "You have already helped me too much. I, on the other hand, have been cultivating all the time and haven't even had the time to accompany you. Haven't you been by my side these few days?" Ouyang Shuang smiled faintly. A gentle breeze blew, and a few strands of her hair swayed gently, adding to her charm. Du Xiaofu's eyes lit up. "Actually, I'm only afraid that one day, I won't be able to catch up to your footsteps. At that time, the distance between us would only grow further and further." Ouyang Shuang spoke. This was the worry in her heart. She had personally witnessed the purple-robed young man before her. She had always been working hard to catch up to him. Back then in Tianwu Academy, she had always been working hard. She always thought that she only wanted to become an expert. Only now did she know that there was a seed buried in her heart. She was only afraid that she would grow further and further away from him. And now, she was still working hard. But no matter how hard she tried, she was still unable to catch up to his footsteps. She was unable to help him much. "I will always be here," Du Xiaofu said. When Ouyang Shuang opened her mouth, wanting to say something, his fiery lips had already touched hers. She was already in his embrace. At this moment, Ouyang Shuang was immediately stunned. She didn't know what to do and felt her heart beating wildly. She couldn't help but close her eyes. She didn't know what to do. A moist touch came from her lips. A numb electric shock came from her lips. She couldn't help but put her hands on his shoulders. Under the pure white moonlight, their hair fluttered. This man and woman embraced each other. Under the bright moon and stars, their lips were entwined and their tongues were intertwined. The next morning, the east was slightly bright. Under the slightly white sky, in the barbaric beast mountain range, the mountain peaks were as black as iron. It was solemn and dignified. The stone city was covered in radiance and mist rose. "Brother! Father!" Du Xiaoqing and little Xingxing directly pushed open the door and entered Du Xiaofu's room. "Ah!" A scream immediately came from the room. It sounded like a frightened rabbit. "What's going on?" This was the Du family. There were as many experts as there were clouds. It immediately attracted a lot of experts. Du Xiaoyao, Mo Tianxiao, Thunderhawk King, Yi Wuming, and Ghost Chariot. Many of these experts were attracted. "Nothing. We didn't see anything." Little Xingxing and Du Xiaoqing swaggered out of the room as if nothing had happened. "Cough, nothing happened. You can all leave." Du Xiaofu stood with his hands behind his back and walked out of the room. He looked calm as if nothing had happened. "Sister Shuang, why are you in Big Brother Xiaofu's room? Are you guys okay?" Dai Xingyu curiously asked Ouyang Shuang, who was standing behind Du Xiaofu. Her hair was a little messy, her face was flushed, and her head was lowered. "We're fine." Ouyang Shuang shook her head. Her delicate face was even redder. "It's good that you're fine. It's good that everyone is fine." Haha, Mo Tianxiao, Thunderhawk King, Ghost Chariot, and the others looked at Du Xiaofu with half smiles. "Xingyu, they're fine. Don't worry about them." Du Xiaoman held Dai Xingyu's hand with a smile on her face. Her legs were long and slender as she looked at Du Xiaofu and Ouyang Shuang with a faint smile. "Third brother, some of us have discussed. There are some things that we need you to decide. Du Yunlong's figure appeared. He knew what had happened at a glance. Okay, get someone to go to the palace hall. Du Xiaofu immediately nodded and smiled gratefully at his second brother, Du Yunlong. His second brother had purposely come to help him out. After a while, Du Xiaoyao, Du Xiaoqing, Yi Wuming, Zhen Qingchen, and the core experts of the desolate country were all present in the palace hall. Du Tingxian and Old Lei were also present. They sat on both sides of Du Xiaofu. Third brother, we've discussed for a while. We feel that the desolate country might be able to build a wormhole. Rumor has it that a great calamity is coming. If we don't have a wormhole, the desolate country's migration will be much slower when the calamity comes. Du Yunlong said. Everyone had discussed the wormhole over the past few days. Most of them felt that it was necessary. However, building a wormhole didn't just require strength. It also required a huge amount of energy. Such a huge matter required Du Xiaofu to decide personally. Building a wormhole. Du Xiaofu squinted his eyes. He was no stranger to wormholes. A wormhole was a spatial tunnel that connected two different spaces. However, opening a wormhole required at least a 9-star spiritual talisman master. That wasn't all. Ordinary 9-star spiritual talisman masters couldn't do it. They needed to be proficient in formations and had dabbled in the mysteries of space and time. Only then could they have the opportunity to build a wormhole. 8-star spiritual talisman masters and martial saints could travel through space. However, they couldn't open a wormhole. Building a wormhole required a huge amount of energy. Opening and maintaining a wormhole required a huge amount of energy as well. Du Xiaofu pondered. The Ancient Heaven sect, the Profound Talisman sect, and the Profound Underworld sect all had wormholes. However, they didn't lead to many places. Aside from places like the Tianhuang continent and the Chenhuang continent, they didn't lead to anywhere else. The further they went, the greater the cost. Places like the Four Seas and Wutong Mountain were the territories of the dragons and phoenixes. The beast region was also the territory of the beast race. Even if they had the resources to build a wormhole, the dragons, phoenixes, and beast race wouldn't allow someone to build a wormhole there. No one would allow someone else to build a wormhole at their doorstep. Building a wormhole requires too much energy. Our desolate country has just risen and we don't have any plans to enter the other 8 continents. Building a wormhole requires too much energy. We need to think about it carefully, said Meng Kai. He had his own thoughts. From his point of view, he didn't really support building a wormhole. That kind of energy consumption made his heart ache. Chapter 1808. This time, after cleaning up the converted forces of legalism and school of vertical and horizontal, we've calculated all our gains. The wormhole cost that we paid to the Ancient Heaven sect is just a drop in the ocean. The rest is enough to support the construction of the wormhole, and for a short period of time, it will be enough to operate. Gu Zhongyu spoke. He had been in the desolate country recently, managing the huge wealth of the country with Meng Kai. At this moment, Gu Zhongyu was no longer the same person as before. He had his own aura. As a puppet master with a great reputation in the central state and even in the entire Kyushu, any puppet he made would have a sky-high price in the outside world. There was a price but no market, and the supply could not meet the demand. As for the World Pavilion, it has accumulated quite a lot over the years. After sweeping away the converted forces of legalism and school of vertical and horizontal in the 8 states, we can also station the World Pavilion in the 8 states. When the time comes, we will definitely gain a lot. After a short pause, Gu Zhongyu continued, however, I also agree with Hall leader Meng's opinion. Constructing a wormhole costs too much, and it's not very useful at the moment. If we really need it, we can borrow the wormholes of the Ancient Heaven sect, or even the Xianming sect and Xianming sect. We can even delay the construction of the wormhole. That's true, but borrowing the wormhole is not a long-term plan. Constructing the wormhole is a precaution, just in case. Although it costs a lot, it is necessary. Eagle King Gong Dao spoke. As the great elder of the world society, his words carried a certain weight. Dad, what do you think? After pondering for a while, Du Xiaofu asked his drunkard father. It all makes sense. Du Tingxian said, but constructing a wormhole is not easy. In the desolate country, there are not many people who have the strength to do so. Constructing a wormhole also has a great risk. We need to think about it in the long run, and we can't be careless. Constructing a wormhole is no small matter. Once it fails, we may drown in the collapsed space, unable to escape for eternity. Zhen Qingquan's inverted triangular eyes said, I have some understanding of wormholes recently, and can be of some help. However, I'm afraid that I'm far from enough to construct a wormhole alone. Master once mentioned wormholes to me. I have some experience with wormholes, and can be of help, Dai Xingxing said. Dai Xingyu said. Back then, she had not broken through to the nirvana stage, but she had already come into contact with spatial wormholes. During this period of time, I'll do some research. If possible, I hope to build a wormhole as soon as possible. Du Xiaofu said. He still hoped to construct a wormhole as soon as possible. The great calamity of the world was coming, and when that time came, there would be unforeseen events and dangers everywhere. It would be worth it to leave a glimmer of hope for the desolate country, no matter how many resources he had to expend. Where are Yi Piaoling and Mu Ruobai? Du Xiaofu was surprised to see Qian Guyu, Silver Fox, Stone, and Qi Guiyu among the 18 celestial guards. Yi Piaoling and Mu Ruobai were the only ones missing. Where else can they go besides Wanzhou's 100 Flowers Gate? Chang Guyu smiled helplessly. After returning to the desolate country, those two fellows had gone to Wanzhou. These two. Du Xiaofu smiled and said to Li Shui of the Moon Shadow Hall, send a message to those two fellows. There's no need to rush back. Let them stay in the 100 Flowers Gate for a while. Yes, I'll arrange it now. Li Shui smiled. Immediately, everyone in the hall smiled knowingly. In the following time, Du Xiaofu went to Tianwu Academy to understand the situation. He also left the desolate ancient space in Tianwu Academy, allowing the experts of the desolate country and the students of Tianwu Academy to enter the desolate country's battle realm and enlightenment realm to comprehend. As for Du Xiaofu, Zhen Qingchun, and Dai Xingyu, they were immersed in studying wormholes. We can also help. Du Xiaoyao and Little Xingxing were not idle. They each had their own talents and could help. Ouyang Shuang, Du Xiaoman, and Du Xiaoqing could only stand by the side. The others could not help. Zhen Qingchun said, to construct a wormhole, the most important thing is to have some understanding of the space and time ultimacy. Experts who have some understanding of the space and time ultimacy, even if they are martial Dao experts, can also construct a wormhole. In the supreme tomb of the divine domain space, I obtained some opportunities and made some progress in the space ultimacy. Father, do you want to take a look? Little Xingxing did not hide anything from Du Xiaofu. In the supreme tomb of the divine domain space, he obtained a huge opportunity that contained the space ultimacy. The desolate ancient space is related to time, so it must be related to the time ultimacy. To construct a wormhole, you need to comprehend it well. Du Xiaofu said. Then, the group entered the desolate ancient space and prepared to construct a wormhole. G. In the desolate ancient space, a screeching sound resounded. Little Xingxing condensed his hand seals and the space in front of him fluctuated. A resplendent seven-colored phoenix phantom appeared, spreading its wings and soaring into the sky. The seven-colored light flooded the void. Such a phoenix phantom was too shocking. It was as if it had crossed through space and time, causing the space to explode. This phoenix phantom was clearly different from the phoenixes of the current era. It was not something that the phoenixes of the current era could compare to. This is the opportunity one obtained in the Supreme Tomb. It was left behind by my father. It allowed me to awaken a type of bloodline in my body and allowed me to comprehend the profoundness within it. Little Xingxing said. The seven-colored phoenix flapped its wings and flew into the void. It was like a phoenix of 10,000 phoenixes. The pressure on the phantom was not inferior to that of dragons and ordinary phoenixes. Phoenix Clan. Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes. Back then, in the void painting caused by the Lord of 3,000 Worlds, he had already seen this phoenix phantom. Looking at it carefully, it was smaller in size compared to ordinary phoenixes. However, its power was much more terrifying. This is not a phoenix. Strictly speaking, it is a vermilion bird. It comes from my mother's bloodline. My father was afraid that my mother's bloodline would be suppressed in my body. Hence, he left this mark in the Supreme Tomb, allowing me to awaken the vermilion bird bloodline in my body and comprehend the profoundness of space. Little Xingxing said seriously, as far as I know, the vermilion bird bloodline comes from the heavens. It is a heavenly spiritual beast that surpasses the phoenix. Vermilion bird, surpasses the phoenix, this was the first time Du Xiaofu heard it. This was not a phoenix, but a vermilion bird. It was an existence that surpassed the phoenix. The phoenix was the leader of the flying beasts. However, the vermilion bird was a heavenly spiritual beast that surpassed the phoenix. If the real vermilion bird were to descend, how powerful would it be? The vermilion bird clan is born with the power of space. They are talented in the profoundness of space. Little Xingxing said. This was what he had comprehended. Comprehended. Du Xiaofu was a little excited. If he could comprehend the profoundness of space from the vermilion bird that surpassed the phoenix, it would be very useful. The profoundness of space, Zhen Qingchun, Dai Xingyu. Du Xiaoyao's eyes were also shining. They did not want to miss out on such an opportunity. Time passed slowly. Kyushu was turned upside down by the desolate country. After a huge commotion, it returned to a short period of peace. Nothing major happened. However, there were rumors that a great calamity was approaching. When the time came, the world would become a demon's domain. It was inevitable that everyone was panicking. The great calamity is approaching. There are also super strong people in the world who will stop it. There are still many hidden strong people in the world. They are all preparing to resist the great calamity. I believe that they will succeed. Such words could not be heard anywhere in the 9 prefectures. Time was like quicksand, quietly passing by. Unknowingly, 2 months had passed since the desolate country's strong people surrounded legalism. Whoosh whoosh, in the barren ancient space, several figures flew out. They were Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, Little Xingxing, and Dai Xingyu. The 5 people from Zhen Qingchun. The profoundness of space and time is really hard to comprehend. After such a long time, I can only barely see the door. Du Xiaofu sighed. He had been in the barren ancient space for almost a year and a half. However, he did not gain much in the profoundness of space and time, but he did gain a lot. It could be said that he had opened a door. Peeking at the door is enough to build a wormhole. I heard from my master that it's not easy to peek at the door of any kind of ultimacy in this world. It requires extremely high talent. It's extremely difficult to truly comprehend the ultimacy and reach a higher level. There aren't many people in this world who can do that. Dai Xingyu's eyes were smiling. She stood there elegantly, looking extremely charming. The progress she had made during this period was enough for her to be satisfied. Zhen Qingchun said, if we want to build a wormhole, it's best that we go to the wormhole to comprehend it. This way, our chances of success will be much higher. Brother Qingchun is right. Let's make a trip to the ancient heaven sect. Du Xiaofu nodded. Before building a real wormhole, being able to comprehend it in the wormhole would naturally increase their chances of success. Therefore, a few days later, Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, Zhen Qingchun, Dai Xingyu, and Little Xingxing arrived at the Ancient Heaven sect. With Du Xiaofu's connections in the Ancient Heaven sect, entering the Ancient Heaven sect was like returning to his own home. Using the wormhole to meditate naturally wouldn't be a problem. In the mountains, the wormhole opened. Runes flickered and space-time fluctuated. Du Xiaofu's group of 5 entered the wormhole and calmed down to comprehend everything. Ever since he had comprehended the ancient stone tablet outside the Du family, Du Xiaofu's comprehension of all kinds of things had been doubled with half the effort. As he comprehended the 2 stone tablets that contained the tyrannical sword path and the tyrannical chi path, his comprehension ability increased by a lot. After a few days, the 5 of them left the Ancient Heaven sect and returned to the desolate country. Let's first build a wormhole to the Tianhuang mainland. There are many wormholes on the Tianhuang mainland that lead to Kyushu. After some thought, Du Xiaofu decided on the location of the first wormhole in the desolate country. Then let's do it. After such a long period of comprehension and preparation, they were finally going to make a move. This made Du Xiaoyao, Little Xingxing, and Zhen Qingchun very eager to give it a try. Whoosh whoosh, in the following period of time, countless resources in the desolate country were used. Many figures shuttled between the desolate country and the Tianhuang mainland. Chapter 1809. Rumble. A few days later, the stone city shook as several figures appeared in the depths of the palace. Hand seals formed and connected, and dazzling runes of various colors covered the entire palace. They channeled the energy of heaven and earth, causing time and space to distort as if they were going to crush the void. Walala, above the void, the runes shone brightly, revealing a deep hole in space. The runes flickered, and a misty aura filled the air. Rumble. At this moment, the entire stone city shook, and rumbling sounds reverberated endlessly, as if heaven and earth were about to crumble. Rumble. A vast aura descended, causing all living beings in the stone city to be shocked. A terrifying aura spread across the entire middle state. It's coming from the direction of the desolate country. Such a huge commotion immediately attracted the attention of the experts in the middle state. Many old figures appeared in the void, looking in the direction of the desolate country. It seems like the desolate country is building a wormhole. That group of supreme talents is simply proficient in everything. In the void, an elder's eyes shone with a divine light, rippling. 3 days later, somewhere in the Tianhuang mainland where wormholes converged, the space was distorted, revealing a hole in the void. Runes filled the air, shining brightly in the sky. Swoosh swoosh, 5 figures flew out from the hole in the void. The first was a tall man in a purple robe, his long black hair flying in the wind. There was also a beautiful woman. She was young, slim, and elegant, but she could move one's soul. There was a golden redbone horse monkey the size of an adult. He was born with spiritual eyes and had the aura of a king. There was also a little girl who was born to be a supreme. Her eyes shone with golden flames, demonic and noble. The last was a middle-aged man. His inverted triangular eyes were filled with charm, and a faint murderous aura surrounded him. When these 5 people appeared, their faces were pale, and their auras were weak. It's done. The 5 of them walked out, looked at each other, and then smiled. Oh my God, it's the Demon King Du Xiaofu, the Redbone Horse Monkey Du Xiaoyao, the Purple Dragon Emperor, Dai Xingyu, and the Sacred Array Child Zhen Qingchun. The appearance of these 5 people in the Tianhuang mainland immediately caused a huge commotion. Congratulations, Brother Xiaofu. It will be much more convenient for me to go to the desolate country in the future. Behind him were Blue Fantasy and Scarlet Rock. These days, he had been guarding the desolate nation nearby, constructing a wormhole. He could not afford any mistakes. On this day, the desolate country successfully constructed a wormhole. Success. Our desolate country now has the ability to construct wormholes. On this day, the imperial palace was filled with jubilation. Everyone was extremely excited. In this world, only existences like the 9 great families had the qualifications and strength to construct a wormhole. The spatial wormholes in the ancient heaven sect, the profound underworld sect, and the profound talisman school were all left behind by their ancestors. With the current strength of the ancient heaven sect and the profound talisman sect, if they wanted to rebuild the wormhole, the chances of success would be slim. Extraordinary. When old master was your age, I'm afraid he didn't have the cultivation he has now. Old Lei was touched. The son of the new master was so talented that it shocked the world. While the imperial palace was jubilant, Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, and little Xingxing went into seclusion in the desolate ancient space. The consumption of constructing the wormhole had exhausted the 5 of them to the extreme. The huge consumption was too shocking. Ordinary people would not be able to withstand it. Walala, Du Xiaofu sat cross-legged as golden light enveloped him. He breathed evenly, and an incomparably domineering aura spread out from the golden light. In his mind, Du Xiaofu had already entered a state of comprehension. This time, he had a deeper understanding of the time and space ultimacy by constructing the wormhole. Unfortunately, according to Dai Xingyu, his understanding of the time and space ultimacy was only at the door. He was still far from reaching the next level. Walala, several days later, in the desolate ancient space, the golden light around Du Xiaofu's body fluctuated like golden spiritual snakes. Finally, it entered his body. Qi. Qi, however, when the last wisp of golden light disappeared, Du Xiaofu opened his tightly shut eyes. Golden light shot out from his eyes, dazzling and resplendent. Boom! At this moment, an invisible aura swept out, causing his purple robe to flutter and space to tremble violently. Huff! As he exhaled a mouthful of turbid air, a ripple appeared on Du Xiaofu's resolute and determined face. There seems to be another way to construct the wormhole. I can study it carefully. Du Xiaofu muttered softly. Although he had constructed a wormhole, from his comprehension, Du Xiaofu felt that the wormhole constructed in this world could be improved. However, he needed to continue comprehending it. Perhaps he would have the chance to construct a different wormhole in the future. However, first, he needed to improve his time and space ultimacy. Father. Big Brother Xiaofu. Along with Du Xiaofu's awakening, Little Star, Dai Xingyu, Little Demon Du, Chen Qingchun, and the others who were nearby had successively awakened from their breathing and meditation, and they spat out foul air before arriving by Du Xiaofu's side. The wormhole has been successfully constructed. Legalism has also sealed the exit. What do you plan to do next? Zhen Qingchun asked Du Xiaofu. Work hard to improve your strength. The rumor of the great tribulation of heaven and earth is not baseless. Du Xiaofu stood up and narrowed his eyes. The great tribulation of heaven and earth was coming. At that time, this world might very well become a demon domain. The great tribulation of heaven and earth was closely related to the devil religion. His master, weapon-revered Xiahou Fenglei, was still in the hands of the devil religion. Whether it was for public or private reasons, there would be a great battle with the devil religion sooner or later. All of this required him to improve his strength. Legalism could no longer break in. However, legalism would come out sooner or later. After this siege, Du Xiaofu also realized that if he wanted to truly suppress the legalism, even his current nirvana cultivation was not enough. He needed to work hard to improve his cultivation and strength. After a while, in the main hall of the Du family, many core experts of the desolate country gathered. All of them had smiles in their eyes. Yi Piaoling and Mu Ruobai sent back a message. Du Xiaoman smiled and said to Du Xiaofu. What message? It seems to be good news. Looking at the smiles on everyone's faces, Du Xiaofu guessed that it was definitely good news. Counting the time, Yi Piaoling and Hua Zimo, Mu Ruobai and Xia Liue's wedding will be held in my desolate country. At this moment, those two guys should already be on their way back. Du Xiaoman smiled and said. What? Those two guys are done so quickly? Hearing this, Du Xiaofu was stunned for a moment. Then, a smile appeared on his face. What do you mean by done? Ouyang Shuang stared at Du Xiaofu with her big beautiful eyes. Li Shui, Yi Zijin and the others also glanced at Du Xiaofu. Ha! Gue Che, Guqin Devil, Silver-Winged Devil Condor and the others smiled faintly. Looking at everyone's gazes, Du Xiaofu suddenly clicked his tongue. He smiled embarrassedly and said to Ouyang Shuang, done means that they are finally going to get married. Is that so? Ouyang Shuang rolled her eyes at Du Xiaofu. In front of so many people, this was giving him a lot of face. Du Yunlong did not miss the opportunity to speak. He asked Du Xiaofu, third brother, the wedding will be held in my desolate country. How do you think we should arrange it? The whole country will celebrate. Inform Kyushu to make it as lively as possible. We can't neglect the 100 Flowers Gate. Du Xiaofu said 8 words. Yi Piaoling and Mu Ruobai's wedding was a joyous occasion for the entire desolate country. With the status of the 100 Flowers Gate, holding the wedding in the desolate country was not without Yi Piaoling and Mu Ruobai's insistence. The 100 Flowers Gate was also very polite. After all, the rules of the 100 Flowers Gate were broken by these two guys. Understood. Hearing this, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman and the others smiled and nodded. Who would have thought that Yi Piaoling, that killing god, is going to get married? That cold guy seems to have some tricks up his sleeve. Even Hua Zimo has been seduced by him. When the time comes, we can mess around in the bridal chamber. The 100 Flowers Gate is full of beauties. When the time comes, there will definitely be many. We can't miss this opportunity. The main hall was in an uproar. To everyone present, Yi Piaoling, Mu Ruobai, and the rest of the 18 celestial guards were not simply part of the world society. After all these years of trials and tribulations, the 18 celestial guards were the benchmark in everyone's heart. They were one of the flags of the world society. These 18 youths were the pride and joy of the desolate country. Yi Piaoling and Mu Ruobai's wedding was a heartfelt joy for the people of the desolate country, regardless of their age. In the following time, the stone city was decorated with lanterns and colored banners. Although Yi Piaoling and Mu Ruobai had not returned, the entire stone city was filled with jubilation. This is the first time the desolate country has organized such a lively wedding. I have watched that child Yi Piaoling all these years. I didn't expect him to have a family now. Now that I think about it, it was like yesterday in the dark forest. A few days later, in the side hall, Wu Ming sighed. It had not been easy for the desolate country all these years, but now that he thought about it, it all felt like yesterday. All these years, it has been hard on Elder Yao. If not for Elder Yao's competence, the desolate country would not be where it is today. Du Xiaofu bowed. Back then, when he had nothing, he had dragged Master Apothecary Yi Wuming to join the World Society. With Elder Yao's protection, the World Society had taken shape and the desolate country was today. I should be the one thanking you. If not for you, my old bones would not be where they are today. Yi Wuming looked at Du Xiaofu with some emotions in his eyes. He said, the most correct thing I have done in my life was to listen to your lies. Otherwise, I, Yi Wuming, would not be where I am today. I did not misjudge you. After a slight pause, Yi Wuming looked at Du Xiaofu and smiled. He said, Yi Piaoling and Mu Ruobai are about to get married. What about you, little Shuang, Dongli Qingqing, Su Muxin, and the other girls? As far as I know, your uncle and the others are looking forward to you getting married soon. Me, Du Xiaofu smiled helplessly. He squinted his eyes and said, it's still early for me. Master is still in the devil religion. My family has not been reunited. It's not the time yet. Chapter 18:10. Yi Wuming stepped forward and patted Du Xiaofu's shoulder without saying a word. The bright moon hung high in the sky. The valley was dark and gloomy. It was so dark that even the moonlight couldn't dilute it. In a quiet courtyard, rocks overlapped. A figure with a hood covering his head and a cloak stood in front of the courtyard. He sat cross-legged and breathed in and out. A murderous aura rippled. There were a dozen corpses in front of this person. These corpses were shriveled, as if their essence, blood and souls had been sucked out, leaving only shriveled corpses. As the person in the hood breathed in and out, moonlight fell from the sky and connected with him, tempering his body. The radiance rippled, and the moon seemed to be pulled down and dyed red. Chi. The space rippled and a figure landed silently. He was also dressed in a hood and had a slender figure. His eyes were glowing with a terrifying grayish-white light. Huff, with the arrival of this person, the cross-legged figure stopped breathing and sucked a mouthful of moonlight into his mouth. He retracted his aura and opened his eyes. They glowed with a terrifying light as he slowly stood up. I've received some news recently. Du Xiaofu has stepped into the Nirvana stage. The person spoke and took off his hood, revealing a rather young face. He looked to be about 28 or 29 years old and had an extraordinary aura. It was none other than Shen Yan of the Black Talisman sect. He broke through quite quickly. He's already in the Nirvana stage. Hearing this, the latter's voice was faint. He raised his head slightly and took off his hood. His golden hair danced in the wind and his face was slightly pale. However, he still exuded a kind of valiance and his eyes were gorgeous. If Du Xiaofu was here, he would definitely be shocked. This was the corpse of Dongli Qi Huang, who had disappeared from the Great Will sect. He didn't expect Dongli Qi Huang to still be alive. His good days won't last for long. Shen Yan laughed coldly. His laughter was gloomy and completely different from his aura. It echoed in the deep valley. How long do we have to endure? Dongli Qi Huang looked at Shen Yan, his eyes emitting a terrifying light in the night. Soon, soon. Looking at the night sky, Shen Yan spoke, and a cold light shot out. Du Xiaofu, I'm not dead yet. I'm still alive. We're not finished yet. Dongli Qi Huang spread out his arms and sneered. The evil aura on his body fluctuated, causing the clouds to surge and dark clouds to cover the moon. It was as if a peerless demon had been born. In the early autumn morning, there was a hint of coolness. The fallen leaves in the mountain stream were yellow. On this day, Du Xiaofu arrived at the Great Will sect. As he gazed at the towering mountains, his heart shook as an indescribable feeling gushed out from within him. The desolate nations Du Xiaofu is here to visit. Du Xiaofu said with a faint smile to the nervous and doubtful disciples outside the Great Will sect. Du Xiaofu? The Demon King, Du Xiaofu? When they heard this, the legs of the new disciples of the Great Will sect practically trembled while their entire bodies went limp. Their expressions changed drastically, and someone immediately dashed in to report. Swoosh! Swoosh! It wasn't long before the aura of the Great Will sect fluctuated, and many figures flashed out like bolts of lightning. All of them had surprised and tense expressions. Based on their identities, these people were the elders and guardians of the Great Will sect. Du Xiaofu had seen many of these figures, and there were even a few experts at the region realm amongst them. Du Xiaofu wasn't unfamiliar with them. However, Du Xiaofu didn't feel much goodwill from the gazes of these experts at this moment. Du Xiaofu, why have you come to my Great Will sect? One of the experts at the region realm asked. His gaze flickered, and he looked a little nervous. The Demon King in front of him was no longer the same as before. He even dared to go against legalism, and the Great Will sect was no longer able to contend against him. Dongli Qi Huang's death made these experts of the Great Will sect not have much goodwill towards Du Xiaofu at this moment. I'm here to meet someone, Du Xiaofu said. The quiet courtyard was surrounded by lush greenery, and the fragrance of exotic flowers and rare herbs assailed one's nostrils. You're here for her. Outside the courtyard, Du Xiaofu saw an old woman with long sleeves fluttering in the wind. There was no aura fluctuation, but she seemed to be imposing without being angry. Du Xiaofu knew this old woman. She was Dongli Qingqing's master. They had met a long time ago. Later on, when he went to the Divine Dominion, according to his uncle, he had received her help. Later on, when he was outside the Divine Dominion, he had also received her indirect support. Senior. Du Xiaofu said. He felt that this old woman's aura was actually not inferior to the old lady's. In fact, it was even more vast. Perhaps it was because she was Dongli Qingqing's master, but he felt an invisible pressure. However, this pressure did not come from her strength, but from her identity as Dongli Qingqing's master. The old woman looked at Du Xiaofu. She looked old, but her eyes were deep. Looking at Du Xiaofu, she did not speak for a long time. She seemed to be thinking about something, and there were some waves in her heart. Senior. Du Xiaofu raised his head and said again. Sigh. The old woman put away the waves in her heart and sighed slightly. Suddenly, she looked directly at Du Xiaofu and said, How much does she occupy in your heart? Du Xiaofu was stunned. He did not understand and was a little confused, but then he said, If I and she are in danger at the same time, there is one person who must die. That person must be me. She has too many burdens behind her back. You may not understand now, but I can tell you that she has a blood feud. She has to face a colossus like the school of legalism and school of vertical and horizontal. If you want to be with her, you have to protect her. Can you do it? The old woman looked at Du Xiaofu and asked. Du Xiaofu looked at the old woman with a determined gaze and said, I will protect her with my life. Unless I die, if I don't, I will face it with her. Remember what you said today. I did not let her be with you in the past because she has too many burdens. If she is with you, it will hurt her and also hurt you. With her identity, you did not have the right to be with her in the past. The current you is because I misjudged you in the past. It doesn't matter if you don't like me, or if you are unhappy with me, you just have to remember the promise you made to me today. In the end, you two will be together. This is fate, and also the will of the heavens. I will not stop you. The old woman looked at Du Xiaofu and said seriously. Du Xiaofu heard this and looked at the old woman in front of him. He said, I have no displeasure in my heart. In the future, I will be filial and respect senior like Qingqing. With your words, this old woman is enough. Qingqing, that girl, has suffered since she was young. After meeting you in the Savage Beast Mountain Range, I saw a smile on her face. She is not good with words. You cannot let her down. The old woman said. I will definitely protect her well, unless I die one day. Du Xiaofu bowed. He respected the old woman and was happy that Dongli Qingqing had such a master. The old woman waved her hand and said to Du Xiaofu, Go. She has just come out of seclusion. She is in the back mountain. Thank you, senior. Du Xiaofu said goodbye and went to the back mountain. The great tribulation of heaven and earth is approaching. There is not much time left. I don't know what the final result will be. Perhaps I am too harsh on you. After all, you are still a child. Gazing at Du Xiaofu's back, the old woman lifted her head slightly. Her deep eyes rippled as she stared into the distance. She murmured, This brat, maybe he is someone worth trusting. One day, when I leave, you won't be all alone. Whoosh, in the back mountain, there was a lush green mountain and an ancient forest. A graceful figure squatted beside an ancient green vine. A flower bloomed, emitting a sweet fragrance. Chapter 1811. Translator, H2DH2 Mr. Du Xiaofu landed and looked at the beautiful figure. A smile appeared on his resolute face. The beautiful figure seemed to have sensed something. She turned and raised her head. In the distance, she saw a familiar figure. She was startled, thinking that she had seen wrongly. Why is he here? Is this an illusion? The beautiful figure thought to herself. Her eyes were clear on her fairy-like face, but when she saw the man slowly walking up to her, she smiled and walked up. Her smile was like a flower as she said, "It really is you. Why are you here?" "They didn't let me in. It wasn't easy for me to sneak in." Du Xiaofu smiled and looked at the girl in front of him. The surroundings were lush and the forest was ancient. It was as if they had returned to the savage beast mountain range. Dongli Qingqing rolled her eyes at Du Xiaofu and said, "If you want to come in, who can stop you?" But as her voice fell, Dongli Qingqing's expression changed slightly. She immediately grabbed Du Xiaofu's hand and was about to leave. She said, "Did you really sneak in? Be careful, don't let master discover you. You go to my place first." Du Xiaofu took the opportunity to grab Dongli Qingqing. He looked at the fairy-like girl in front of him. Her green clothes outlined her alluring curves. A few strands of hair fluttered gently beside her ears. Her movements intertwined, making her seem otherworldly. "What's wrong with you? If master discovers you, you'll be in trouble." Dongli Qingqing looked at Du Xiaofu's gaze. She could feel that Du Xiaofu's gaze was extremely special. Her voice also lowered. "This is the first time I've discovered that you are so beautiful." Du Xiaofu smiled slightly, his heart rippling. The girl in front of him was like a fairy, elegant and beautiful, like an immortal, intoxicating him. Glib tongue. Dongli Qingqing glared at Du Xiaofu, but her heart was in a daze. Being stared at like that by him, an indescribable feeling crept into her heart. "I'm telling the truth," Du Xiaofu promised. As soon as he finished speaking, he held the woman in front of him tightly in his arms. His right hand ran through her black hair, and his lips were already on hers. Dongli Qingqing was stunned and did not know what to do. She did not struggle and seemed to have forgotten to dodge. At this moment, she felt her heart beating wildly. In an instant, she felt a moist sensation on her lips. He gently sucked on her lips and slowly kissed her. "Master will find out." "You," finally, Dongli Qingqing reacted. She wanted to struggle, but he covered her delicate red lips and she couldn't speak. With his kiss, Dongli Qingqing's heartbeat accelerated. A numb electric shock passed from her lips, making her respond involuntarily. This was a primitive ability that did not need to be learned. Gradually, the two of them hugged each other tightly. They seemed to have forgotten everything as they closed their eyes and moved their tongues little by little. Cough, suddenly, a dry cough came from not far away, and the figure of an old woman appeared. The man and woman who were in the midst of forgetting their feelings suddenly separated. They looked at the old woman who suddenly appeared with astonishment. "Master, he came to see me. He didn't mean to sneak in." "Don't blame him." Dongli Qingqing's face was already lowered to her chest. Her face was flushed red. She held Du Xiaofu's hand tightly, but did not plead for mercy for Du Xiaofu. Did she really think that he snuck in? "Senior, why are you here?" Du Xiaofu smiled embarrassedly. He was a little absent-minded just now and did not notice the old woman's sudden appearance. "I'm just passing by." As expected, a grown girl can't be kept at home. Sigh, the old woman glanced at Du Xiaofu and Dongli Qingqing, then said, "That's enough." With that, the old woman left. "It's all your fault." Seeing her master leave, Dongli Qingqing clicked her tongue. She was puzzled. Her usually strict master did not say anything. Then, her fists fell like rain, landing on Du Xiaofu's shoulder. "I promised your master that I would not let her down in this life. Du Xiaofu pulled Dongli Qingqing and said seriously, Yi Piaoling and Mu Ruobai are going to marry Hua Zimo and Xia Liyue from the 100 Flowers Gate. I'm here to take you to the desolate country. To the desolate country. Hearing this, Dongli Qingqing was stunned. Yes, an ugly daughter-in-law will have to meet her parents-in-law sooner or later. Besides, you've already met them. Du Xiaofu smiled. Who's your daughter-in-law? Dongli Qingqing stared at Du Xiaofu and suddenly came back to her senses. She immediately shouted, You dare to call me ugly? Ha! Du Xiaofu laughed and ran away. Soon after, a burst of laughter came from the ancient forest, startling many birds. Go, don't forget your manners. When Dongli Qingqing told her master that she wanted to go to the desolate country, the old woman nodded and said only one sentence. The desolate country was full of joy. Sister Qingqing. When Dongli Qingqing arrived at the desolate country, she was immediately surrounded by Du Xiaoqing, Blue Fantasy, Scarlet Rock, and the others. Qingqing. Ouyang Shuang went forward, smiling very warmly. Third young master, do you want me to keep an eye on them? What if they capsize? Du Little Tiger, Ghost Chariot, Phantom Tiger King, and the others pulled Du Xiaofu to the side and said worriedly. Capsize your head. Du Xiaofu left a crisp sound on their heads. He looked at Ouyang Shuang and Dongli Qingqing, who were happily mingling with each other, and felt a little nervous. President. The voice was calm. Before he arrived, a faint murderous aura had already filled the air. You're back. Du Xiaofu smiled. He turned around slightly and a dozen tall and straight young men had already gathered around him. The young man at the front was tall and thin. He was wearing a black robe and his black hair was as black as night. His eyes were filled with a piercingly cold sharpness under his scattered fringe. Who else could this young man be other than Yi Piaoling? I'm back. Yi Piaoling raised his head slightly, showing his high nose bridge and thin lips arrogantly. But at this moment, there was a trace of a smile in his eyes. Then, he looked at Du Xiaofu and said, Thank you. What are you thanking me for? Don't forget how much of the desolate country's territory was personally conquered by you. Du Xiaofu patted Yi Piaoling's shoulder, leaned over, and whispered mysteriously, But tell me honestly, have you settled the most beautiful flower of the 100 Flowers Gate? Guess. Yi Piaoling looked at Du Xiaofu and smiled. Then, he looked at Ouyang Shuang and Dongli Qingqing, who were not far away, and whispered, You must be having a headache now. Which room should you sleep in tonight? You're so boring like this. Hearing this, Du Xiaofu felt a little sullen. With the arrival of Dongli Qingqing, the Du family became even more lively. The aunts and uncles took turns to look at Dongli Qingqing, looking very enthusiastic. Of course, these aunts and uncles did not forget to take care of Ouyang Shuang's feelings. Finally, in this atmosphere, the wedding day of Yi Piaoling and Mu Ruobai finally arrived. Chapter 1812. Today was the wedding day of Yi Piaoling and Mu Ruobai. The entire stone city was in a festive mood, decorated with red carpets. The wedding of Yi Piaoling and Mu Ruobai was an extremely important event for the entire desolate country. All the experts in the desolate country knew about the relationship between Yi Piaoling and the Rock Emperor, Du Xiaofu. Although the 18 celestial guards belonged to the world society, other than Du Xiaofu, they only listened to orders and did not follow orders. It was obvious that their status was ordinary, and they were the sharpest swords in the desolate country. They controlled the highest torture chamber in the desolate country. Yi Piaoling and Mu Ruobai were also prodigies, especially Yi Piaoling. His nirvana status was enough to prove everything. Such a big wedding was undoubtedly the most lively day in the desolate country since its establishment. Early in the morning, countless leaders of forces entered the city to congratulate them. The desolate country had already arranged for people to welcome them outside the city, so it was not rude. The leader of the mysterious talisman sect is here to congratulate you. The leader of the mysterious underworld sect is here to congratulate you. The leader of the Golden Spear sect in Ningzhou, Bailey Wuxia, is here to congratulate you. The leader of the Sky Thunder Fort in Liizhou, Mu Qingge, is here to congratulate you. The leader of the Saiman Sword sect in Shangzhou, Mu Jianchen, is here to congratulate you. The leader of the Supporting Star sect in Shangzhou, Mu Qingge, is here to congratulate you. Such voices had been echoing throughout the entire Stone City and the Imperial Palace since the morning. Everywhere was filled with a sense of jubilation. Heavens, those who came are all famous forces in the 9 prefectures. They've all come to our desolate country. That's for sure. Mu Qingge and Mu Jianchen are all part of the 12 godly heroes. Our Rock Emperor is the leader of the 12 godly heroes. This is proof of our desolate country's strength. On this big day, all the Kyushu forces are gathered. Who else in the entire Kyushu has the power to summon such people? All of this is brought by the Rock Emperor. All the desolate country's numerous heroes. Our desolate country's many godly heroes. Our desolate country's desolate country, Stone City's Stone City. Stone City was in an uproar. Today's festivities had gathered into an ocean, and it was a testament to the desolate country's strength. Today, such a scene caused the old people of the Stone City to shed tears of excitement and caused the disciples of the Stone City to tremble. The experts of the desolate country were also greeting the guests both inside and outside the palace. There was an endless stream of people. The gods of slaughter were all grinning from ear to ear at this joyous occasion. For the Kyushu experts, this was the first time that many of them had the opportunity to visit the desolate country's imperial palace. What a rich imperial dragon chi! Is that the legendary grass of immortality and dark penetrating grass of the desolate country? These are great treasures. One by one, the experts who visited the desolate nation's imperial palace gasped in amazement. Du Xiaoyao, Little Tiger, Du Xiaoqing, Scarlet Rock, Blue Fantasy, and Little Xingxing were all gone since it was rare for them to be in such a festive mood. It's so lively today. In a corner of the imperial palace, there were 2 graceful figures standing quietly. They looked around at the lively atmosphere with smiles on their faces. These 2 women were Ouyang Shuang and Dongli Qingqing. Du Xiaoman, Du Shui, and the rest were busy greeting the Kyushu experts and did not have time to rest. It's rare for the desolate country to have such a lively day. Ouyang Shuang's red lips were slightly parted. She looked very calm and had a rare gentleness and politeness. She looked at Dongli Qingqing with a smile. Dongli Qingqing looked at Ouyang Shuang and smiled, saying, "You have been by his side the most all these years. It's been hard on you. It's what I should do." Ouyang Shuang nodded with a smile. Dongli Qingqing looked at Ouyang Shuang's calm face and her green eyes flickered. The tight-fitting green clothes outlined her tall and graceful figure. It was enough to make one's soul fall in love with her. She then smiled and said, "Back then, when I was in the dark forest with him, he often mentioned you. It's clear how important you are to him." Ouyang Shuang was startled when she heard this. She then said to Dongli Qingqing, "He often mentioned you to me as well. Back then, I entered the dark forest with him to Tianwu Academy. If it weren't for the dangers we encountered along the way, I would have met Miss Qingqing. He's in danger wherever he goes. Back then, when I first met him in the barbaric beast mountain range, he was already in danger." Dongli Qingqing's expression was calm. Her eyebrows were like jade feathers on her fairy-like face. Her long black hair was tied into a simple bun at the back of her head. She looked noble and charming. Women are truly strange creatures. It was unknown when Mo Tianxiao had arrived, but his eyes were filled with confusion as he stared at the 2 beautiful figures. "What's wrong?" Thunderhawk King came over and asked curiously. "Since it's none of our business, it's better to avoid it." Mo Tianxiao shook his head and turned to leave. "This fellow is so mysterious." Thunderhawk King was puzzled. The ancient heaven sect master, Elder Gu Qingyang, has arrived. An exceptionally respectful voice resounded in the stone city and also reached the imperial palace. Everyone, please feel free to do as you wish. Excuse me for a moment, I'll be going to fetch my master. In the imperial palace, Du Xiaofu, Desolation Leopard, Mu Qingge, Mu Jianchen, Zhu Shui, and many other leaders of large forces in Kyushu were chatting. When he heard that the ancient heaven sect's senior brother and master Gu Qingyang had arrived, he immediately took his leave. At such a young age, he has such strength and cultivation. Most importantly, he respects his master so much. How rare. That old man Gu Qingyang really picked up a treasure. Why can't I meet such a disciple? Seeing Du Xiaofu leave, many old people in the imperial palace secretly sighed. Those who were familiar with Gu Qingyang all revealed looks of envy. Come with me to fetch master and senior brother. Du Xiaofu walked out of the desolate country and saw Ouyang Shuang and Dongli Qingqing in a corner. He pulled them along. Okay. The two girls looked at each other and smiled. Then, they intimately walked together while holding hands. Master, senior brother. Du Xiaofu received Sima Taxing and Gu Qingyang's group outside the imperial palace. There were also Yin Maqin, Si Ruofeng, Yun Ling, and Shui Ruhan. They were all familiar faces. Greetings, Sect Master Sima and Elder Gu. Ouyang Shuang and Dongli Qingqing also followed behind Du Xiaofu and bowed. I'm here to see if there are any old friends to see. You can go back to your business. Gu Qingyang said to Du Xiaofu. Then, he looked at Ouyang Shuang and Dongli Qingqing. His two front teeth, which looked like rabbit teeth, jumped out and said, "Two little girls, when you change your words, I will give you 2 red packets." With that, Gu Qingyang went straight into the imperial palace, leaving Dongli Qingqing and Ouyang Shuang looking at each other with blushing faces. Go back to your business. Don't worry about us. I'm going to find your father for a drink. Sima Taxing smiled at Du Xiaofu. My father, Uncle Yi, Uncle Ouyang, and Uncle Mu are already drinking. They are in the back of the mountain. Du Xiaofu wryly smiled. His alcoholic father had already taken a few people to the back of the mountain to drink. Then I'll go find them. Sima Taxing Xing nodded. He was already familiar with the road and didn't need to lead the way. Domain Lord Ru Meng and Domain Lord Su Muxin of the Hehuan School in Shangzhou has come to congratulate you. Suddenly, such a voice was heard. Hearing this, Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes and looked into the distance. Stone City of the desolate country was not a place where just anyone could directly cross the sky. That would be disrespectful to the desolate country, and it was the same for any great sect or clan. Crossing the sky like a mountain was a sign of disrespect. However, the people who came today were all masters of the great sects in Kyushu. Even if they were not powerful enough, they were still giants with illustrious reputations. They wouldn't let them slowly enter the city. Therefore, the barren country arranged many mounts from the celestial beast hall to welcome them. It didn't lose the dignity of the barren country and also showed respect to the guests. Flying mounts from the celestial beast hall spread their wings in front of the imperial palace. In front were the 2 domain lords Ru Meng and Ru Quan. Their hair fluttered in the wind and their bearing was extraordinary. From afar, there was already a smile in their eyes. Beside the 2 domain lords, there was a beautiful figure in a purple dress. She was wrapped in a faint multicolored light and stood quietly. She also had a noble and dignified aura that made people revere her. Such a beautiful figure, dressed in a purple dress, with skin as white as snow. Her eyes were clear and flowing with multicolored light, emitting a bewitching charm. She was so beautiful that it was soul-stirring. When this beautiful woman in purple appeared, although Ouyang Shuang and Dongli Qingqing were not drowned out by her radiance, they still secretly attracted a lot of attention. In terms of appearance, Ouyang Shuang and Dongli Qingqing were not inferior. However, the invisible aura of the woman in purple dress, that charming and dignified aura, was enough to cause waves in the heart of any man in the world. And such a woman, if not Su Muxin, who else could it be? Looking at Su Muxin, who was on the flying demonic beast in the air, that invisible aura made Du Xiaofu's heart fluctuate. That kind of majesty and charm was unique to her. Greetings, seniors. As the two domain lords Ru Meng and Ru Kuang landed, Du Xiaofu bowed. You should be busy today. You don't have to pay attention to us. The two domain lords laughed. Swish, Su Muxin landed, followed by Ji Jian, Tang Meiling, and some other experts and disciples of the Hehuan school. Greetings, sect supervisor. The disciples of the Hehuan school bowed. No need for formalities. Du Xiaofu waved his hand and nodded at Su Muxin. We'll accompany Sister Muxin. You can go ahead. Ouyang Shuang and Dongli Qingqing said to Du Xiaofu as they arrived beside Su Muxin. Then you guys can chat. With these three women together, Du Xiaofu felt a little guilty and did not dare to stay any longer. He wanted to leave as soon as possible and immediately slipped away. Thank you for coming, thank you. In the crowd, the bridegrooms today, Yi Piaoling and Mu Ruobai, were both wearing bright red wedding robes embroidered with dragons and phoenixes. They shuttled through the crowd and greeted the Kyushu experts who came. Chapter 1813. Although Kyushu's major factions had gathered for the desolate nation, none of them dared to be arrogant in front of the famous 18 celestial guards and the Nirvana supremacy Yi Piaoling. Even the domain realm experts had to treat them with respect. Thank you, everyone. Please forgive us for our lack of hospitality. Mu Ruobai was much more talkative than Yi Piaoling. She was also much more tactful, and her face was full of joy. The smile on Yi Piaoling's face seemed to be forced, but it was obvious that Yi Piaoling was really happy today. The School of Agriculture is here to congratulate the desolate nation. The School of Taoism is here to congratulate the desolate nation. The School of Confucianism is here to congratulate the desolate nation. The School of Yin Yang is here to congratulate the desolate nation. The School of Mo is here to congratulate the desolate nation. When these voices echoed in the palace, the entire Stone City's celebration reached its peak. The 9 great families are here. The Stone City was in an uproar, and the Kyushu experts were also shocked. The School of Agriculture, the School of Taoism, and the School of Confucianism were among the 9 great families, but they had actually sent people here today. Du Xiaofu, who was at the front, raised his head and narrowed his eyes. He was a little surprised. Although he had informed Kyushu, he hadn't informed the School of Agriculture. He hadn't expected them to all come. But in the end, the School of Agriculture, School of Taoism, and School of Confucianism had only sent a few elders and disciples. Du Xiaofu didn't see Qi Yeshi and Sima Muhan among the people from the School of Yin Yang and the School of Mo. However, although the School of Agriculture had only sent a few disciples and a few elders, it was definitely the first time in history that they had come to the desolate nation. Is this a signal? Many experts and authorities in the crowd guessed. The School of Agriculture and School of Taoism had come to congratulate the desolate nation because of the Demon King, Du Xiaofu's reputation. The fact that 5 great families had come at this moment made people think a lot. Greetings, Elder. In the crowd, many experts from various factions stepped forward and bowed to the elders and protectors of the School of Agriculture, School of Yin Yang, and School of Taoism. They were all from the School of Agriculture, School of Yin Yang, and other factions that had converted to the School of Agriculture. The Phoenix clan of Wutong Mountain has come to congratulate you. Another voice rang out, echoing in the void. Oh my God, even the Phoenix clan is here. The crowd could not hold it in any longer. The Phoenix clan, who rarely showed their faces and did not interfere with the affairs of the outside world, had also come to the barren country to congratulate them. Above Kyushu, the desolate country was probably the only country with such prestige. The Phoenix clan had come. No matter who it was, they were representing the Phoenix clan. Zixuan and Qing Luan were also from the Phoenix clan. Du Xiaofu personally welcomed them at the door. The Phoenix clan had also sent an elder and a few extraordinary disciples. They brought extraordinary gifts and said many polite words to Du Xiaofu and Yi Piaoling. They were not arrogant, but they were also very arrogant. This arrogance came from the Phoenix clan itself. For an elder to lead a team to the barren country to congratulate them was already a show of respect from the Phoenix clan. Thank you. Du Xiaofu was neither servile nor overbearing. Being in the palace, his every move was imperceptibly enhanced by the imperial aura of the palace. He gathered great fortune and momentum, which made the elder of the Phoenix clan secretly tremble. Looking at the group of sovereigns from the barren country shuttling in and out of the palace, the elder and the disciples of the Phoenix clan could not help but suppress the arrogance of the Phoenix clan in their hearts. Bang, 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 suddenly, outside the stone city, there was a sound that shook the void. There were a total of 9 sounds that shook the void. Whoosh, 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 along with the sound of the void trembling, there were beautiful fireworks that bloomed in midair. The 2 brides have arrived. The voice gradually came from outside the stone city, echoing in the void. Whoosh, 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 in the sky, from outside the stone city, there was a flowery fragrance that made people feel relaxed and happy. From high up in the sky, there were petals that sprinkled down on the stone city. A woo, beasts roared like thunder, and there was a bright light of runes sweeping down. Several neat demonic beasts pulled a red carriage over. This was the mount and carriage of the 100 Flowers Gate. Today was the big day of the 100 Flowers Gates Hua Zimo and Xiao Liyue. The 100 Flowers Gate had come to deliver the bride, and demonic beasts could be seen flying through the sky. In front of and behind the carriage, light fluctuated, petals sprinkled, and the fragrance of flowers filled the air. Hundreds of figures appeared. It's the sect master of the 100 Flowers Gate, Hua Qianyue. The domain lord of the 100 Flowers Gate, the domain lord of the Viburnum Flower Gate, they also came personally. In an instant, someone exclaimed, looking at the hundreds of figures, and an uproar of surprise immediately spread. The arrival of the sect master of the 100 Flowers Gate and the 2 domain lords who had not shown themselves for a long time caused a great commotion in the crowd. At this moment, the young disciples of the 100 Flowers Gate who came with them all had outstanding temperaments. The male disciples were all tall and straight with a cold expression. The aura that faintly permeated from their bodies was also very frightening. The female disciples had graceful figures with moving curves, causing many men to take a few more glances. When the red carriage of the 100 Flowers Gate appeared outside of the imperial palace, in front of the crowd, 16 heavenly guards surrounded Yi Piaoling and Mu Ruobai. Their faces were brimming with smiles. Under the gazes of the crowd, the red carriage in the sky opened. The female disciples of the 100 Flowers Gate came forward and escorted the 2 girls who wore phoenix crowns and red robes. Their faces were covered with a red veil, and they landed on the ground like the stars surrounding the moon. When the 2 girls landed, Yi Piaoling and Mu Ruobai nervously clenched their fists. Their gazes were fixated on the 2 girls as their hearts trembled. Go, welcome the bride, but don't make a mistake. Du Xiaofu came forward and patted Mu Ruobai and Yi Piaoling's shoulders with a smile. At this moment, he was sincerely happy for the 2. Boss, go quickly, it's time to welcome the bride. Qian Guyu, Stone, Qi Guiyu, and the others smiled as if they were even more excited than the 2 grooms. Go welcome the bride, quickly. Don't tell me that the 2 of you are embarrassed of the 18 heavenly guards. Go. In a split second, the crowd erupted in laughter. We want to see the bride. Little Star, Scarlet Rock, Du Xiaoqing, and Du Xiaoyao came out of nowhere and loudly shouted in the crowd, attracting many followers. Yi Piaoling glanced at Du Xiaofu before exchanging glances with Mu Ruobai. Only then did she slowly walk forward. Don't make a mistake. The crowd roared with jubilant laughter. I won't make a mistake, I definitely won't make a mistake. Mu Ruabai said to the crowd. She walked up to the two women and bowed to the sect master and several elders of the 100 Flowers Gate. Then, she took the red rope from a female disciple of the 100 Flowers Gate with a face full of smiles. How could he give it to the wrong person? Even the red curtain couldn't stop him. Yi Piaoling walked forward and bowed to the elders of the 100 Flowers Gate. Then, she also took a red rope and slowly walked into the palace. Walala, along the way, flower petals fell, red carpets connected, and red lanterns were placed on both sides. The red palace was full of dragon qi, and the occasional dragon roar resounded. I want to see the bride, when can I see the bride? Little Star shuttled through the crowd and shouted with all his might. In the end, he was caught in Du Xiaofu's hand. In the crowd, Sima Taxing, Du Tingxian, Elder Lei, and Ouyang Ling had also snuck in at some point. They were also very interested. Inside the palace, one could still see the figures of the North Vanquishing King and the South Vanquishing King. They were still very healthy and cheerful. A moment later, under the gazes of the crowd, the two couples stood in the main hall of the palace. Today, my beloved disciple and disciple are getting married. The wedding will be held in the barren country. Thank you all for traveling thousands of miles and crossing continents to borrow the barren country's land. On behalf of the 100 Flowers Gate, I thank you all. The 100 Flowers Gate sect master Hua Qianyue walked forward. She was a beautiful woman with a noble temperament. Facing the guests in the hall, she was elegant and courteous. Everyone cheered for her. As everyone knows, our 100 Flowers Gate has some rules, but sometimes, the rules can be slightly changed. Good, sect master Hua, good job. Before Hua Qianyue could finish her sentence, the crowd cheered even louder. In the past few years, the 100 Flowers Gate's rules forbade its disciples from marrying outside. Who knew how many young talents could only watch from afar? At this moment, the 100 Flowers Gate's rules were changed appropriately. This was beneficial to Kyushu, especially the people from Wanzhou, who were especially excited. Hua Qianyue clearly didn't expect to cause such an uproar. She could only faintly smile and continue, Zimo is my beloved disciple and the next sect master. Liue is also the beloved disciple of an elder in my sect. Her position in the sect is not low. These two girls are a good match for Yi Piaoling and Mu Ruabai. Today, my beloved disciple Hua Zimo and disciple Xia Liue will be marrying Yi Piaoling and Mu Ruabai respectively. Good, hearing this, waves of cheers erupted in the main hall of the palace. Everyone, the auspicious time has arrived. Let the wedding begin. Looking at the sky outside the main hall, Du Zhenwu walked up. Looking at the heroes around him, he faintly smiled and said, to me, Yi Piaoling and Mu Ruabai are like my own children. Even though I didn't watch them grow up, these years, I have watched them train and grow step by step. That's why they are today. His words caused the entire imperial palace to fall silent. Everyone present knew that the 18 heavenly guards had only risen in recent years. They came out of nowhere and shocked Kyushu. Today, these two children are getting married. I am very happy in my heart. The entire barren country is celebrating, but today, the wedding officiator is not me. With that, Du Zhenwu looked at Du Xiaofu and said, Xiaofu, you will be the officiator. Hearing this, Du Xiaofu was taken aback. The officiator was a person of virtue and prestige. He originally thought that the officiator had already been arranged, so he didn't ask. Xiaofu, you go. You are suitable. The North Vanquishing Prince came to Du Xiaofu's side and said, you are the Rock Emperor of the barren country and also the President of the World Society. There is no one more suitable than you. Chapter 1814. Hearing this, Du Xiaofu had no choice but to go up. He was a bit nervous because this was the first time a young lady had to walk on the bridge of flowers. I am a bit nervous. Walking to the front of the hall, Du Xiaofu nodded towards the old man from the 100 Flowers Gate. Then, he looked at the heroes and spoke. Haha, hearing that Du Xiaofu was nervous, the crowd couldn't help but laugh. This demon king was nervous, this was definitely a rare sight. I am still young and this witness makes me a bit nervous. Du Xiaofu said. Then, he looked at the two couples and said, but since I've already come here, I have to brace myself and let the two couples get married. Du Xiaofu's words caused a lot of laughter. The atmosphere in the hall became much more relaxed. As for Du Xiaofu's identity as a witness, no one felt that it was inappropriate. At this moment, no one could find a better choice. This guy. Ouyang Shuang, Dongli Qingqing, Yi Zijin, and Su Muxin stood together and smiled. When these beautiful women stood together, they were also dazzling. The auspicious time has arrived, let's begin. The two couples, first bow to the heaven and earth. Du Xiaofu spoke in a proper manner. Even though he had never been married before, he had seen a few marriages in the Du clan when he was young. Hearing this, the two couples, surrounded by the female disciples of the 100 Flowers Gate, faced the heaven and earth outside the hall. Second bow to the elders. Inside the hall, a disciple placed 4 chairs. The domain lord and Hua Qianyue from the 100 Flowers Gate sat down. My injuries back then were carefully treated by Elder Yi. Elder Yi, please take a seat. Yi Piaoling walked up and pulled Yi Wuming to a seat. He no longer had any relatives. Back in the dark forest, it was Yi Wuming who carefully treated his injuries. Elder Du, please take a seat. I no longer have any relatives. From now on, Elder Du and Elder Yi are my relatives. Yi Piaoling also pulled Du Zhenwu along. He could feel that the Du family had never treated him as an outsider. I also have no relatives. Big brother's relatives are my relatives, Mu Ruobai said. Alright, I'll take my seat. Yi Wuming did not hesitate. His grey robes shook as he took a large stride and sat down. His deep eyes were currently secretly suppressing his excitement. I won't stand on ceremony then. Du Zhenwu smiled and sat down beside Dr. Wuming, his face full of smiles. Second, bow to your parents. Seeing this, Du Xiaofu spoke again with a smile in his eyes. Husband and wife, bow to each other. By the time Du Xiaofu followed the instructions of the 100 Flowers Gate's female disciple, the ceremony had already been completed. Take off the veil, we want to see the bride. Inside and outside the main hall, as the ceremony was completed, deafening shouts erupted one after another. I also want to see. Du Xiaofu said this with curiosity in his heart. Under countless gazes, Mu Ruobai was a little nervous and her heartbeat sped up. She raised her head and slowly lifted the red veil. Immediately, a moving face appeared. She was elegant, and extremely beautiful. Her eyes flowed, and her eyebrows were long and slender. At this moment, everyone was looking at her with a charming expression. She was definitely an outstanding beauty. Wow, she's really beautiful. Could she be a disciple of the 100 Flowers Gate? Such a moving woman immediately attracted the cheers and envy of everyone present. At this moment, Yi Piaoling raised her hand. Her pitch-black eyes trembled and her arms seemed to tremble as she lifted the red veil. When the red veil slid down, a moving face appeared. Her skin was as translucent as snow and her eyes were filled with charm. She was indescribably beautiful. This kind of beauty caused the main hall of the imperial palace to be momentarily silent. Many people's gazes were blazing and dazed, as if their souls had been sucked out. 100 charming thousand beauties flower Zimo. Someone exclaimed, his gaze trembling. 100 charming thousand beauties flower Zimo was not just a beautiful woman. This kind of woman had once made a name for herself on the Tianhuang continent in a short period of time and became one of the 12 heroes. And in Wanzhou, she was the proud daughter of the 100 Flowers Gate. Her heavenly appearance was astonishing and she was as beautiful as a fairy. This kind of woman was enough to make all the men in Wanzhou go crazy. She also made ordinary men lose the confidence to even approach her. At this moment, she stood in front of Yi Piaoling, wearing a phoenix coronet and a red veil. When this face appeared, Yi Piaoling's gaze was somewhat dazed. She's especially beautiful today. Looking at this charming woman, Dongli Qingqing, Ouyang Shuang, and Du Shaoqing all praised her from the bottom of their hearts. So beautiful. Little Xingxing finally got his wish to see his bride. The wedding is successful. The entire country celebrates. Du Xiaofu smiled and waved his hand. From the depths of the imperial palace, a golden sword flew out and soared into the sky. Boom, in an instant, the golden sword bloomed with golden light. It was as if the sun had jumped out and turned into the shadow of a golden dragon, crossing the stone city. Roar, the golden dragon roared and a golden light bloomed. An oppressive aura descended, causing people's hearts to tremble and want to prostrate. Roar, at this moment, the entire imperial palace was filled with imperial dragon chi, turning into countless golden dragons that roared endlessly. The sound waves were like thunder. The entire stone city was in an uproar. Countless gazes looked at the sky. The entire country was celebrating. Bang, 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 above the sky, fireworks bloomed. It was incomparably beautiful. Whoosh, countless flower petals fell and drifted in the air. It was like a dream. At this moment, the celebration reached its peak. Both inside and outside the imperial palace were in an uproar. For such a grand wedding, it was inevitable that the fragrance of wine would fill the air. The heroes would get drunk and make a racket. At dusk, the last ray of the setting sun touched the horizon. Scattered fog covered the land. The afterglow of the setting sun shone on the stone city, reflecting a magnificent scene. The heroes of Kyushu began to leave one after another. The barren country's disciples sent them off. A moment later, dusk silently descended on the stone city. In the end, the entire magnificent stone city was enveloped by the bright setting sun. It slowly darkened until the stars hung in the sky. The room was filled with joy. In front of the couch, Yi Piaoling stood. Hua Zimo sat quietly with her head slightly lowered. Her cheeks were flushed. In the silent room, it was as if they could hear the heartbeats of the two. Yi Piaoling stepped forward and held her hand. He stared blankly at the woman in front of him and said softly, "I finally married you." "I thought it was an illusion." Hua Zimo raised her head slightly. She felt the warmth of his hand from her fingertips all the way to the bottom of her heart. She smiled and looked at the man in front of her, saying, "From now on, I will accompany you forever. With you in my life, it is enough." Yi Piaoling said. His eyes were a little hazy. Then, without any explanation, he carried the woman in front of him and walked towards the bed with a curtain of beads. Hua Zimo did not refuse. It was their wedding day. She knew what would happen. So, at this moment, she shyly buried her head in his chest. She felt her heart beating faster and faster. She let him put her on the bed. Yi Piaoling's eyes became more and more hazy, but his movements were very gentle. He bent down and kissed her delicate lips. Hua Zimo responded. Her arms tightly wrapped around Yi Piaoling's neck. Yi Piaoling's hands were moving around her soft waist. Hua Zimo's response became more and more intense. She felt a current flowing through her body, making her feel numb. She could not resist at all. In the quiet room, only the flickering light of the night pearl shone. This man and woman seemed to be gradually drawn into a burning flame. It was so hot that they could not stop themselves. He was unbuttoning her clothes. His hands were trembling, and he seemed a little clumsy, a moment later, a sound pierced through the silent night sky. Ice was the pain of the first time. Fire was the joy of intimacy. The man and woman who were gathering the spiritual energy of heaven and earth had become one. Sigh, I can't hear anything. They actually set up a seal. Is there no trust between people? Outside the room, a large group of people led by the mysterious Dragon King, Chao Yu, and the others looked helpless. Both rooms had been set up with a seal, so they could not hear or see anything. The bright moon hung in the sky. Layers of thick fog spread out. Under the gentle moonlight, the white fog was hazy. Far away from the mountain peak, the leaves rustled in the night wind. The sound was graceful and deep, intoxicating. Su Muxin stood on the mountain peak. Under the moonlight, she looked like a fairy that should not appear in the mortal world. How's the muncher recently? Du Xiaofu appeared beside Su Muxin. Looking at the bright moon, his eyes rippled with the morning light. Same as always. Su Muxin opened her mouth. Her voice was calm. Stay in the desolate country for a few more days. Du Xiaofu looked at the woman beside him and said. Her hair fluttered in the wind, and a delicate fragrance spread out. Okay. Su Muxin nodded. Rest early. Du Xiaofu left. His figure was wrapped in starlight, and he disappeared in a flash. Su Muxin turned around and looked at the departing figure. Ripples flashed in her eyes in the night. In a corner of the desolate ancient space, a huge mountain peak floated in the misty space. This mountain peak was huge, and it was filled with alternating white and black colors. There was light, and there were faint fluctuations of talisman runes. This was not an ordinary mountain peak. It was the nest of the divine soul devourer ants. Du Xiaofu had taken the ant nest into the desolate ancient space back in the divine domain. Du Xiaofu's figure appeared in front of the ant nest. A bright green light flew out and arrived in front of Du Xiaofu in an instant. Squeaking sounds were emitted from its mouth. It appeared to be very intimate. Little guy. Du Xiaofu smiled and stretched out his hand. A tiny divine soul devourer ant landed in the center of his palm. It was the size of a fingernail, but it shone with a bright green light. There were fluctuations of talisman runes on its body. It was the tiny ant queen. The tiny ant queen landed in Du Xiaofu's palm and rubbed against Du Xiaofu's palm intimately. The tiny light in its eyes was exceptionally resplendent. It was not big, but it emitted a boundless pressure. Little guy, let me bring you out to play. Du Xiaofu smiled and said to the tiny ant queen. Chapter 1815. Squeak squeak, the little ant emperor seemed to be able to understand Du Xiaofu's words. It let out squeak squeak in excitement. Green light flickered in its little eyes. Du Xiaofu smiled and left the ancient desolate space with the little ant emperor. Elder, take care. I will visit the Phoenix clan at Wudong Mountain soon. Dusk. The sun was setting. The stone city was enveloped in golden light. Du Xiaofu bid farewell to the elder of the Phoenix clan. Rock Emperor, you are too courteous. My Wudong Mountain will welcome you with open arms. The elder of the Phoenix clan was flattered. The Demon King, Du Xiaofu, was sending him off personally. Although he was an elder of the Phoenix clan and represented the Phoenix clan, the Demon King was someone who would kill dragons, legalism, and school of vertical and horizontal without hesitation. Now, the Demon King was being so courteous to the Phoenix clan. Du Xiaofu was indeed very courteous when sending off the elder of the Phoenix clan. It couldn't be helped. Du Xiaofu was planning to visit the Phoenix clan at Wudong Mountain. The little ant emperor's injuries wouldn't last for long. He had to visit the Phoenix clan. Moreover, Zi Xian was still in the Phoenix clan. After all, she was little Xingxing's godmother. Squeak squeak, night fell. The sunlight gradually dimmed. The little ant emperor flew around excitedly in the back mountain of the Du family. It was very curious about everything. There seems to be a huge amount of energy sealed in this little guy's body. Little Xingxing looked at the little ant emperor. Her eyes were shining with golden flames. She could feel the energy sealed in the little ant emperor's body. You are just a little guy. Du Xiaoyao patted little Xingxing's head. Her innate spiritual eyes were also curiously looking at the little ant emperor. Is this the legendary divine soul-devouring ant? At this moment, Dongli Qingqing, Ouyang Shuang, Su Muxin, Yi Zijin, Yi Wuming, Yi Piaoling, Hua Zimo, Mu Ruobai, Xia Liyue, Chen Qingchun, and many others were curiously sizing up the little ant emperor. Everyone was curious and surprised. They had all heard of the legend of the divine soul-devouring ant. Moreover, this wasn't an ordinary divine soul-devouring ant, but a divine soul-devouring ant's little ant emperor. When the old ant emperor reached the end of his life, he sealed his essence, blood and cultivation into the little ant emperor's body to help him break through. However, this little guy is born with a natural disease. I used my essence, blood and the grass of immortality to help him, but he was only able to last for a few more years. The result was better than I expected. Therefore, I placed him in the desolate ancient space so that he could break through faster. When the time comes, he would have a better chance of going to the Phoenix clan. Du Xiaofu said to little Xingxing and the others, in a few days, I will be making a trip to Wudong Mountain. Rumor has it that there is a Nirvana divine pool in the Phoenix clan. If the little guy can enter it and undergo Nirvana rebirth, not only will he be able to recover from his natural disease, he can even transform into the supreme ant phoenix of the divine soul-devouring ant race. I can go to Wudong Mountain to see my godmother. Little Xingxing immediately cheered when he heard this. The Phoenix clan's Nirvana divine pool is a treasured land of the Phoenix clan. Even the pure-blooded descendants of the Phoenix clan are not able to enter it. Guiche said. His nine-headed Phoenix clan had some relationship with the Phoenix clan, so he knew a lot of things about the Phoenix clan. The Nirvana divine pool was a treasured land of the Phoenix clan, and not many pure-blooded descendants were qualified to enter it. Du Xiaofu looked at the distant sky and narrowed his eyes. After pondering for a while, he said, no matter what, let's go there first. This is what I promised the old ant emperor. Squeak squeak, the little ant emperor landed on Du Xiaofu's shoulder and intimately rubbed against Du Xiaofu's neck. At the same time, it curiously looked at Ouyang Shuang, Dongli Qingqing, Su Muxin, Du Xiaoyao, Du Xiaoqing, and Little Tiger. They won't hurt you. Du Xiaofu held the little ant emperor in his palm. Perhaps it was because of his blood essence and the profound of the grass of immortality, but he felt very close to this little guy. Squeak squeak. The little ant emperor clearly understood Du Xiaofu's words. It flapped its wings and flew around Dongli Qingqing, Su Muxin, Du Xiaoqing, and Du Xiaoyao. This little guy isn't as scary as the rumors say. It's actually quite cute. Ouyang Shuang said. She wasn't afraid at all. She stretched out her hand and tried to get closer to the little ant emperor. Squeak squeak, the little ant emperor hesitated for a moment, but in the end, it slowly landed on Ouyang Shuang's palm. It looked at the little ant emperor with curiosity. So cute. Ouyang Shuang was overjoyed. She smiled. Then, the few beautiful women surrounded the little ant emperor and started to talk and laugh. The night was silent. The Du family was still in the courtyard where he grew up. Nothing had changed. In the courtyard, Du Tingxian was sitting on a rattan chair with a wine jug in his hand. He leaned against his chair and looked in the direction of the setting moon. Du Xiaofu was beside him. The father and son didn't say a word. They just sat there quietly. Do you still remember when you were young? You often woke up in the ancestral hall's stone coffin. Du Tingxian broke the silence. He was drinking wine, but he was no longer drunk. He was like a different person. This was the real Du Tingxian. Didn't you do it? Du Xiaofu looked at Du Tingxian helplessly. If this wasn't his father, he would have rolled his eyes at him. How could Du Xiaofu forget the stone coffin in the ancestral hall? When he was young, he didn't know how many times he woke up in the stone coffin in the ancestral hall. Later on, Du Xiaofu found his first uncle and second uncle and told them about this matter. However, at that time, he carried the title of foolish young master, and no one in the Du family believed him at all. He was even almost beaten up, and was specially warned that the stone coffin in the ancestral hall was left behind by the ancestors of the Du family, and was not to be violated. In the years that followed, Du Xiaofu remembered that although he didn't wake up in the stone coffin every day, there would be a few days every month when he woke up in the stone coffin in the ancestral hall. Du Xiaofu didn't know how he got in and didn't tell the elders of the Du family. He didn't want to be punished by the family. He was used to it. In the stone coffin, Du Xiaofu also clearly remembered that he could obtain great benefits. Every time he woke up in the stone coffin, his body felt like it was being cleansed. It could even help him comprehend the ancient stone tablet outside the Du family. At the same time, it could also help him repair the thunder martial vein in his body. Later, Du Xiaofu found out that all of this was done by his drunkard father. Faintly, Du Xiaofu seemed to feel that his drunkard father knew some of the secrets of the ancestral hall. These secrets were not even known by the elders of the Du family. Our Du family's ancestors were extraordinary. There are some secrets in the ancestral hall. I accidentally learned about them and also discovered the benefits in the stone coffin. However, until now, I still can't unravel the secrets in the ancestral hall. Du Tingxian looked at Du Xiaofu and said, "This time, I want to go into seclusion in the ancestral hall for a period of time. I hope to unravel the secrets in the ancestral hall." Okay, I also want to go to the Phoenix clan on Wudong Mountain. Du Xiaofu nodded. His drunkard father wanted to go into seclusion. How could Du Xiaofu not know what his drunkard father was thinking? He wanted to improve as soon as possible so that he could go to legalism. In the early morning, the mountains were like beauties who had just come out of the bath. In the sky above the stone city, a few spiritual birds flew by from time to time and circled outside the palace. They wanted to absorb the spiritual energy from the grass of immortality and dark seeker grass. Seniors Rumang and Quang have already left. I should also go back. You go to the Phoenix clan. Be careful. Su Muxin said. Her long dress was otherworldly. Under the morning sun, her graceful figure moved people's hearts and souls. You be careful too. Du Xiaofu opened his mouth. He wanted to say something, but he hesitated and didn't say it. Su Muxin looked at Du Xiaofu, and a ripple flashed in her eyes without leaving a trace. She then turned around and stepped into the wormhole in the barren country, disappearing slowly. I'm also going back to the Great Luan sect. You go to Wudong Mountain. Be careful. Dongli Qingqing said to Du Xiaofu. Then, she left the stone city and returned to the Great Luan sect. I also have to go back. There are some things I need to settle. Mo Tianxiao said to Du Xiaofu. Then, he left the stone city. We are going to Wudong Mountain to play. Little Xingxing was especially excited. Whoosh whoosh, after a while, several figures walked into the wormhole and left the stone city. This time, Du Xiaofu did not bring many people to the Phoenix clan on Wudong Mountain. There were only Du Xiaoyao, Little Xingxing, Du Xiaoqing, and Little Tiger. The group walked out of the wormhole of Tianhuang mainland and headed to Wudong Mountain. Wudong Mountain, where the Phoenix clan was. Legend had it that after the Dragon Phoenix tribulation, there was a great tribulation of the world. Later on, the dragon god and the supreme expert who sealed the evil demon descended and stopped the great tribulation of the world. From then on, the dragons returned to the four seas while the Phoenix clan rested on Wudong Mountain. Wudong Mountain was actually not a mountain. Compared to a mountain, it was many times larger. Wudong Mountain was as famous as the Sanlu Kyushu. It was definitely not much smaller than the Sanlu Kyushu. Legend had it that Wudong Mountain was a treasure land. Unfortunately, no one dared to barge into Wudong Mountain. Even the top experts of the world did not dare to enter Wudong Mountain rashly. That was because it was the habitat of the Phoenix clan. The Phoenix clan was an ancient clan. It was much older than the 9 great families. One could imagine its foundation. Although Wudong Mountain did not appear, no one had dared to underestimate the Phoenix clan since ancient times. Since ancient times, the Phoenix clan of Wudong Mountain would occasionally send young disciples out to train. They had all left behind a reputation that could shock the world. Whoosh whoosh. Chapter 18:16. Several figures appeared in the void in a flash. The person in the lead was Du Xiaofu. The people beside Du Xiaofu were Little Xingxing, Du Xiaoyao, Du Xiaoqing, and Little Tiger. Du Xiaofu and the others flew all the way from Tianhuang mainland to Wudong Mountain. They did not have the time to enjoy the late autumn scenery. Du Xiaofu's figure flew, but his expression was not relaxed. This time, he came to the Phoenix race for the Nirvana Divine Pool. Du Xiaofu knew that it would not be easy to borrow the Nirvana Divine Pool of the Phoenix race. However, he had to at least try for the Little Ant Emperor. Along the way, Du Xiaofu was thinking about how to borrow the Nirvana Divine Pool of the Phoenix race. Even if he had to pay a price, he would not hesitate as long as he could bear it. We seem to have arrived at Wudong Mountain. Suddenly, Du Xiaoyao spoke, and her figure slowed down a little. Hearing this, Du Xiaofu collected his thoughts and slowed down quite a bit. He looked ahead and saw that there was hot air everywhere. The rocks under his feet were dark red in color, and the air was filled with a blazing aura, with hot air gushing out. Although it was hot, there were many strange things growing on the vast land. There were not many green plants, and most of them were strange red plants that were extremely resistant to heat and exuded spirit qi. Is this Wudong Mountain? Du Xiaofu probed with his consciousness. This was a scorching land. There were mountains in front of him, and they were like peerless dragons on the horizon. The deeper they went, the denser the spirit qi. Squeak squeak, green light rippled in the hair behind Du Xiaofu's head, and a squeak could be heard. The tiny little ant emperor crawled out from Du Xiaofu's black hair. If one did not look carefully, they would not be able to see it clearly. The little ant emperor came to this scorching land, but it seemed to have come to a familiar place. It seemed to have an inexplicable excitement. I can feel my mother's aura. Little Xingxing suddenly stood in the void, and there were golden flames in his eyes. The third eye between his eyebrows flickered, and he had a rare serious expression. Little Xingxing, is your godmother here? Du Xiaofu asked curiously. He thought that Little Xingxing was talking about Zixuan. Zixuan. He did not xian Zixuan's. Her aura. No, it's my mother's aura. My mother left behind an imprint for me to come to the Phoenix clan, Little Star said. Is Little Xingxing, your mother is the Phoenix race Phoenix. Little Tiger was very curious. His deep, dark eyes were filled with surprise. He didn't know that Little Xingxing's mother was from the Vermilion Bird clan. I can feel my mother's aura, Little Xingxing said. Although she had her godfather and 2 godmothers by her side, as well as her 3rd aunt and 6th aunt of the Du family who doted on her, how could she not miss her parents? The older she grew, the stronger she missed them. Let's go. Let's go to Wudong Mountain first. Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes and looked ahead. Several figures flew over once more. The group advanced for several thousand kilometers. The area ahead became more and more scorching. Sparks could be seen in the air at any time. Those who were not strong enough would probably find it difficult to advance any further. Who are you? Suddenly, a fiery red bird that was several hundred meters long flapped its wings and flew over from a huge mountain in front of them. It circled around them with raging flames. The bird's fierce eyes were like big red lanterns. It looked down at Du Xiaofu and the others who were familiar with it. Its aura was extremely fierce, as if it could set one's soul on fire with just a glance. However, this bird did not pose any threat to Du Xiaofu and the others. It was a beast emperor. If it were not for the little tiger and Du Xiaoqing restraining their auras, it would be enough to make this bird crawl on the ground. Du Xiaofu from the desolate country is here to visit the Phoenix clan of Wudong Mountain. Du Xiaofu little tiger said. He was here to visit the Phoenix clan of Wudong Mountain. He would not make things difficult for this bird. At that moment, Du Xiaofu was secretly surprised. As expected of the Phoenix clan, which had been passed down since ancient times, they possessed a powerful foundation. Even the beast emperor stage ferocious beasts were guarding the mountain from afar. Du Xiaofu from the desolate country, Demon King Du Xiaofu. When it heard Du Xiaofu's words, the ferocious bird's entire body trembled. Its several hundred-meter-long body trembled, and its aura almost became chaotic. Its fierce and ferocious eyes were suffused with shock. Afterward, the bird immediately became respectful. It spread its wings and retreated to the side. It said, "The elder has already instructed us to welcome the Rock Emperor from the desolate country. Please." Du Xiaofu nodded. When the elder of the Phoenix clan left, he had said that he would come to Wudong Mountain in a few days. It seemed that the Phoenix clan had made preparations. Whoosh, whoosh, the group continued forward. It became hotter and hotter along the way, but the spiritual qi also became denser. For those with sufficient cultivation, as long as they could withstand the heat, they would be able to obtain great benefits. The dense spiritual qi contained a kind of fire ultimacy, which could bring great opportunities to cultivators. This was especially true for cultivators who cultivated the fire ultimacy. It was a land of treasure. We are here to welcome the Rock Emperor from the desolate country. Along the way, they encountered many ferocious birds. Beast Emperor Realm and Beast Sovereign Realm beasts were waiting for them. They had already received the news and were waiting for them along the way. We are here to welcome the Rock Emperor from the desolate country, Purple Dragon Emperor, and Demon King Du Xiaoyao. A middle-aged man appeared in front of the group. His eyes were bright and he had an extraordinary aura. He was as immovable as a mountain. A martial domain realm cultivator. Du Xiaofu little tiger was surprised again. The middle-aged man was a human and should be a battle servant of the Phoenix clan. However, a martial domain realm cultivator was also waiting to welcome them. Their foundation is really deep. Du Xiaofu couldn't help but sigh at the Phoenix clan's generosity. However, he also knew that the Phoenix clan's generosity was not only to show that they valued him, but also to prove the Phoenix clan's foundation. Demon King. Who gave me this title? How did I become a Demon King? Du Xiaoyao muttered. He did not know when he had become a Demon King. Demon King Du Xiaoyao, the name has been known for a long time. The middle-aged man spoke. Although he knew about Du Xiaofu, Little Star, and Du Xiaoyao, he was neither servile nor overbearing. He was extraordinary. Demon King, not bad. It's much better than the Demon King. Du Xiaoyao smiled. He was also quite satisfied. In his heart, he felt that it sounded much better than Demon King. The fourth princess and Princess Zi Xian are waiting for you ahead. Please follow me. The middle-aged man spoke and led the way. However, even with their speed, it took them a full hour before they arrived in front of an ancient mountain range that stretched as far as the eye could see. The mountain peak was hot, but it was not too hot. Instead, it was very refreshing. The fog was vast, and there were plants that were as red as fire. There were spiritual herbs and spiritual medicines everywhere, and they were filled with multicolored light. This was a vast mountain range. On the mountain peak, there were many tall and graceful figures standing there. Their auras were restrained, but their temperaments were extraordinary. They're here. At the front, a graceful and beautiful woman stood there quietly. Her long black hair was tied up in a princess bun, and there was a rainbow-colored hairpin in the bun. A few strands of tassels hung down. She looked at the several figures in front of her, and her rainbow-colored eyes rippled. Whoosh whoosh, with a few flashes, several figures appeared in front of her. They were Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, Little Xingxing, Du Xiaoqing, and Little Tiger. Little Xingxing saw a graceful figure on the mountain peak in front of him. Her purple clothes were fluttering in the air, outlining her seductive figure. She stood there quietly, and her temperament was otherworldly. She was like a fairy who did not belong to the mortal world. Mother. Little Xingxing had already rushed up. He was very happy, and his face was full of smiles. The woman's face was full of smiles. She went forward and hugged Little Xingxing in her arms. The Rock Emperor is here. The Phoenix clan welcomes you very much. Beside the beautiful woman, the graceful woman spoke. Her rainbow-colored eyes looked at Du Xiaofu and smiled. Her face was smooth, and her lips were like cherry blossoms. Her eyebrows were like ink, and she was very beautiful. She was not inferior to the woman in purple. You're too polite, fourth princess. Du Xiaofu nodded and smiled. How could he not know this woman? This was Huang Ling. Du Xiaofu had not met her many times. The fourth princess of the Phoenix clan, and her cultivation was unfathomable. Although she rarely fought, she had beaten up the Qin devil in the Beast region. When he heard that the Phoenix clan was coming this time, the Qin devil, Shengguan Qi Xian, immediately hid far away. Chapter 18-17. Soon after, Du Xiaofu's gaze landed on the purple-clothed woman. That was Zi Xian. She was so beautiful that no one dared to approach her. Welcome. You must be tired from the journey. Please take a rest today. Tomorrow, my mother will personally host a banquet to welcome you all. Huang Ling spoke in a light voice, and every single move she made seemed so dignified, noble, and pure. You're too polite. Du Xiaofu expressed his thanks. From the information he received, Huang Linger's mother was the current patriarch of the Phoenix clan. For the patriarch of such a clan to personally host a banquet to welcome them, it could be considered generous. Huang Linger waved her hand. As her voice fell, spatial fluctuations suddenly appeared in the sky not far away. A wave of blazing heat rolled over. For blazing fire wands that looked like birds but were not birds, like the wind and the wands. Their entire bodies were scarlet red as they pulled a phoenix chariot over. This was Huang Linger's chariot. It often appeared outside to welcome Du Xiaofu and the others. The four blazing fire wands pulled the ancient chariot, circling in the air. Please. Huang Linger gestured for Du Xiaofu and the others to board the chariot. Du Xiaofu did not stand on ceremony and leaped onto the chariot. This ancient chariot had mysterious runes fluctuating on it. Du Xiaofu had seen it many times, but this was the first time he sat inside. When Du Xiaofu boarded the chariot, he could not help but let out a soft cry of surprise. The interior of the chariot did not seem big, but the space made Du Xiaofu surprised. There was a strange fluctuation in the air. It's related to the profound of space. Du Xiaofu immediately understood. The interior of the chariot was not simple. It contained the profound of space, and could accommodate many people. There should be many other profound mysteries. This was a treasure. Several people boarded the chariot, accompanied by Zi Xian and Huang Linger. The blazing fire wands flapped their wings and pulled the chariot into the air. Within the carriage, a delicate fragrance filled the air. However, Du Xiaoyao was very interested in the ancient talisman patterns in the carriage and began to study them. In the ancient land, the flaming parasol trees covered the sky like numerous mountains. From afar, it was like a boundless sea of fire. These parasol trees were not ordinary objects. They were unique to the Phoenix clan and were treasures. In the mountains, among the flaming parasol trees, vast ancient buildings stood tall. They seemed to have existed for countless years and were filled with ancient model traces. It made people feel as if they had returned to ancient times. Creak creak, in the sky, there were occasional cries of spiritual birds shuttling back and forth. There were exotic flowers and grasses everywhere, and multicolored light filled the air. It was like a dream. What a beautiful place. Du Xiaoqing leaned on the window of the carriage and looked down at the beautiful scenery that was like a fairyland. She couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Creak creak, Du Xiaofu heard a creak creak sound. The little ant emperor seemed to have sensed something and crawled out from Du Xiaofu's hair. It flew to Du Xiaoqing's shoulder and looked down curiously with its little eyes shining. This is a divine soul-devouring ant. When the little ant emperor appeared, Huang Linger and Zi Xian's expressions changed at the same time. Their charming faces were filled with surprise. The divine soul-devouring ant was definitely not an ordinary object. It doesn't seem to be an ordinary divine soul-devouring ant. Could it be? Huang Linger noticed the clues with a single glance. This little divine soul-devouring ant was definitely not ordinary. This is a little ant emperor. Du Xiaofu didn't hide it and told Huang Linger and Zi Xian the little ant emperor's identity. Ant emperor. When Huang Linger and Zi Xian heard this, their chests heaved up and down violently. How could they not know what the ant emperor of the divine soul-devouring ants represented? The ant emperor of the divine soul-devouring ants was an existence that even supreme being demonic beasts had to be wary of. Since ancient times, the divine soul-devouring ants had been a terrifying existence. Not long after, Du Xiaofu and the others were settled in an ancient and quiet courtyard. The surroundings were filled with parasol trees and multicolored light. Outside the courtyard, the Phoenix clan had also arranged for many young female battle servants. Those who could become battle servants of the Phoenix clan were not ordinary existences. They were specially prepared to listen to Du Xiaofu and the others' orders. Everyone, take a rest. I will go back and report to my mother. Someone will invite everyone to a banquet tomorrow. Huang Linger bid farewell and left. Mother, stay here with me. Zi Xian originally wanted to leave, but she was pulled back by little Xingxing. Zi Xian's purple eyes looked at little Xingxing, then glanced at Du Xiaofu and nodded to little Xingxing. She then said to Huang Linger, let me make the arrangements here. I will bring them to the banquet tomorrow. Alright, then I will have to trouble you, Sister Zi Xian. Huang Linger's multicolored eyes rippled. She wore a red patterned pleated skirt, revealing her snow-white breasts. The skirt only covered her knees, making her long and slender legs seem even taller. She then left. So many spiritual herbs. Du Xiaoyao looked ahead and probed with her mind. She had already sensed the aura of countless heavenly treasures and precious herbs. Spiritual herbs. Hearing this, Du Xiaoqing and little Tiger Du almost drooled. This is Wudong Mountain. Don't cause trouble for me. Du Xiaofu had no choice but to remind Du Xiaoyao and Du Xiaoqing. This time, they came here to ask for a favor from the Phoenix clan. If Du Xiaoyao and Du Xiaoqing caused trouble in the Phoenix clan, they might not have any hope of obtaining the Nirvana Divine Lake. Alright. Du Xiaoyao nodded. She was a little reluctant. I'm afraid your visit this time isn't as simple as a visit, right? Zi Xian pulled little Xingxing. Her purple eyes looked at Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, and the others. It was as if she could see through everything. With her understanding of these people, they definitely wouldn't come for no reason. Otherwise, they wouldn't have come. This. Du Xiaofu smiled embarrassedly. He really couldn't hide it from Zi Xian. Mother, father wants to borrow the Nirvana Divine Lake for the little ant emperor, little Xingxing said to Zixian. The Nirvana Divine Lake. Zixian gazed at Du Xiaofu when she heard this, and her eyes moved slightly. Her red lips parted slightly, and her voice was like the sound of nature as she said, "Do you know the origins of the Nirvana Divine Lake?" The Nirvana Divine Lake is a treasured place of the Phoenix clan. Du Xiaofu spoke with a bitter smile on his face. What else? Zixian asked. This. Du Xiaofu shook his head. Besides knowing that the Nirvana Divine Lake was a treasured place of the Phoenix clan, he really didn't know anything else. My Phoenix clan possesses the natural talent of a phoenix's rebirth and rebirth from the flames. This rebirth isn't related to the rebirth of an exalted being, and it's the rebirth of the Phoenix clan itself. It's capable of discarding one's mortal body and establishing a spirit body and forging one's soul. Since the ancient times until now, all those that were able to successfully undergo rebirth from the Nirvana Divine Lake possessed great willpower and perseverance. Unfortunately, since the ancient times until now, only a few people were able to undergo rebirth from the flames. Most of those that failed had their souls annihilated and were burned into nothingness within the flames. A few of them were able to escape, but they wouldn't be able to progress any further, and their cultivations would plummet or even become crippled. Zixian said, the Nirvana Divine Lake was originally a treasured place of the Phoenix clan, and it was able to assist my Phoenix clan in undergoing rebirth from the ashes. Since the ancient times until now, countless outstanding geniuses of my clan have undergone rebirth from the Nirvana Divine Lake. Once they've successfully undergone rebirth, they'll leave behind a dense spiritual substance and a primer for rebirth from the ashes. After a long period of time, the Nirvana Divine Lake was formed. No matter if it's a human or a beast, so long as they're able to cultivate in the Nirvana Divine Lake for a few days, they'll obtain endless benefits and be able to be reborn. The disciples of my Phoenix clan that enter the Nirvana Divine Lake can greatly increase their chances of rebirth from the ashes. After pausing for a moment, Zixian looked at Du Xiaofu and said, however, the Nirvana Divine Lake can't withstand the consumption of the entire Phoenix clan. Over the years, the number of disciples of the Phoenix clan that can undergo rebirth from the ashes is even fewer. Therefore, the Nirvana Divine Lake only opens once every 500 years. The last time it opened was 480 years ago. Every time it opens, only 3 disciples of the entire Phoenix clan are allowed to enter. Is that so? Hearing Zixian's words, Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, Du Xiaoqing, and Little Tiger all sucked in a breath of cold air. In other words, it was basically impossible for outsiders to borrow the Phoenix clan's Nirvana Divine Lake. Chapter 18:18. It's a little troublesome. Du Xiaofu's expression was grave. Even if he could borrow the Nirvana Divine Pool, it would take another 20 years for it to reopen. He didn't know if the little ant emperor would be able to wait until then. Afterwards, Du Xiaofu learned a lot about the Phoenix clan from Zixian. The Phoenix clan had 5 bloodlines, and they mainly had 5 colors. Those with more red bloodlines were the Phoenixes, those with more yellow bloodlines were the Taowu, those with more purple bloodlines were the Taowu, those with more green bloodlines were the Blue Yuan, and those with more white bloodlines were the Swan. Among them, the Taowu belonged to the purple flame demonic Phoenix clan. Among the 5 clans, Huang Linger was the leader of the Phoenix clan. She was the 4th princess, and she had 2 brothers and 1 sister above her. There were also many outstanding youngsters in the Taowu, Blue Yuan, Swan, Taowu, and Taowu clans. As expected of a clan with a strong foundation. Du Xiaofu sighed inwardly. The Phoenix clan was truly extraordinary. It was no wonder that they had always been on par with the dragons. Among the younger dragons, from the 3rd dragon to the 9th dragon, they were all extraordinarily powerful. The Phoenix clan was definitely not inferior to them. Why didn't little Qingqing come? Zixian asked. She didn't see little Qingqing. She went back with Xingyu. Du Xiaofu said. He naturally knew that Zi Xian was asking about Blue Wan. After Yi Piaoling and Mu Ruobai's wedding, Xingyu and little Qingqing had already left. Xingyu missed her master and little aunt Murong Yorua, so she wanted to go back to visit. Thinking of Murong Yorua, Du Xiaofu's heart stirred. After he was done with his business, he would also go and visit her. The desolate country owed her a lot. In a few days, there will be a grand event in the clan. The younger generation of the clan will all return and participate in the event. Little Qingqing has the bloodline of the Blue Wan clan, and her talent is rare in the entire clan. If she can return, she will have a chance to fight for it. Zi Xian said with a hint of regret. That night, the moonlight was like a stream as it scattered down on the flaming parasol trees that covered the mountains and plains. It illuminated the ancient great earth with golden light, and multicolored light rose everywhere. It was just like a dreamland. Outside the courtyard, Du Xiaoqing looked at the solemn Du Xiaofu and said, "The Phoenix clan is quite courteous to us. In addition, Sister Zi Xian is still in the clan and can speak on our behalf. Perhaps we will have the opportunity to borrow the Phoenix clan's Nirvana Divine Pool. We'll see when the time comes. Hopefully, there will be a chance." Du Xiaofu stroked Du Xiaoqing's hair as he smiled. How could he not know that the phoenixes were extremely courteous? It was probably because he was the young master of the golden-winged Great Ping clan. Otherwise, the phoenixes would not be so courteous. At night, the ancient palace was engraved with flame runes. The seven-colored radiance illuminated the ancient palace, emitting an ancient and everlasting aura. Divine soul devouring ant, little ant emperor, in a simple and unadorned stone hall, engraved with phoenix runes, a beautiful woman dressed in exquisite clothes with phoenix runes carved on them. She was gorgeous but not graceful, simple but not dull. Her face was beautiful, but her temperament was noble. Her beautiful eyes flickered, emitting a profound light. She smiled faintly and said, "I think I know the purpose of that fellow's visit." At this moment, there were 2 men and 2 women in this simple and unadorned stone hall. The 2 men were quite young and had extraordinary temperaments. The 2 women were moved. One of them was Huang Ling, and the other was dressed in a red outfit that outlined her sexy figure. Her waist was curvaceous, but the red outfit was covered with a cloak of the same color. It dragged all the way to the ground, making her look noble and valiant. This woman was as alluring as Huang Ling, but her style was completely opposite. Her lips were light red, her brows were like willows, and her face was like snow. She did not seem inferior when standing beside Huang Ling. In the stone hall, Huang Ling's 7-colored eyes were filled with surprise. The 7-colored belt on her waist made her slender waist look even more slender, and her breasts were even more plump. She asked the beautiful woman, "Mother, could it be related to the little ant emperor? If I'm not wrong, the demon king Du Xiaofu's visit should be closely related to the little ant emperor. Speaking of which, the divine soul-devouring ant clan has quite a bit of relationship with our phoenix clan." The beautiful woman smiled faintly. She was somewhat similar to Huang Ling. When she was young, she was definitely an absolute beauty. She was probably not inferior to Huang Ling. She said, "Under the ancestor Phoenix, our Phoenix clan has 5 branches. They are the Phoenix, Blue Wan, Swan Ni, and Swan. However, the divine soul-devouring ant clan is closely related to our Phoenix clan. Very few people in the world know about it. Mother, what is the relationship between the divine soul-devouring ant clan and our Phoenix clan?" In the stone hall, a young man spoke. He had a handsome face and 5-colored eyes. His red hair was draped over his shoulders. Under his battle robe, his posture was tall and straight. He looked extraordinary. "I've only heard rumors in the clan. The ancestor of the divine soul-devouring ant clan was once a close friend of our ancestor Phoenix. Under a lucky coincidence, he obtained a drop of the ancestor Phoenix's blood essence after she broke through to the transformative realm. He then transformed into a supreme ant phoenix. In the ancient times, he shocked the world and was extremely famous. Countless supreme experts had to give way to him. The beautiful woman spoke. She was the current patriarch of the Phoenix clan, Huang Mengjun. After obtaining a drop of the ancestor Phoenix's blood essence, how strong can he be? The young man who spoke just now spoke. His five-colored eyes fluctuated. The divine soul-devouring ant clan had obtained a drop of the ancestor Phoenix's blood essence. Could it be that they could be compared to the true Phoenix clan? Child, our Phoenix clan is strong, but this world is so vast. There are countless rare existences. Everyone knows that our clan is strong, but there are many other creatures in this world that are not weaker than our clan. Huang Mengjun looked at the young man who spoke and warned, the supreme ant phoenix is definitely not weaker than our clan. According to our clan's records, after the great calamity of dragons and phoenixes, the supreme ant phoenix fought against the strongest true dragon below the ancestor dragon and was not at a disadvantage. Fought against the strongest true dragon below the ancestor dragon. Hearing this, Huang Linger and the others in the stone hall were truly moved. If that's the case, our clan is indebted to the supreme ant phoenix. The young man with five-colored eyes spoke. His eyes fluctuated, and the arrogance he had just displayed was restrained. Indeed. The divine soul-devouring ant clan has many connections with our clan. Huang Mengjun spoke and murmured, but this time, the demon king Du Xiaofu's objective is too great for our clan. They probably want to borrow the Nirvana divine pool to allow the little ant queen to be reborn and become the supreme ant phoenix. Nirvana divine pool. Hearing this, Huang Linger and the others trembled. The Nirvana divine pool was only opened once every 500 years, and there were only 3 spots in total. How could it be given to outsiders? It had never been given to outsiders before. The great calamity of heaven and earth is approaching, and the demon king Du Xiaofu has the divine lightning cauldron. His talent is unparalleled in this world. Such an existence is worthy of our Phoenix clan. He is also the young master of the golden-winged Great Peng clan, and there are many mysterious experts behind him. If we directly refuse this time, it will be quite inappropriate. Huang Mengjun's eyes fluctuated, and she seemed to be in a difficult position. Is that demon king Du Xiaofu really as terrifying as the rumors say? The man in battle robes spoke, and his five-colored eyes fluctuated. Huang Linger smiled at the man in battle robes, and said, "Second brother, Du Xiaofu has already stepped into the Nirvana realm." Even the legalism Li Chunfa was suppressed to the point that his primordial spirit self-destructed. I'm afraid that no one below the Saint Plane can be his opponent. Seeing is believing, and hearing is false. Is there really a human who can be so powerful? The man in battle robes was doubtful. He's not only a human, but also the young master of the golden-winged Great Peng clan, Huang Linger said. What a strange human. I've heard many legends, and I'd like to meet him. The valiant and charming woman who had been silent all this time spoke with some curiosity in her eyes. Chapter 18-19. There will be a banquet tomorrow, with representatives from all the branches of the clan attending. The demon king Du Xiaofu is indeed extraordinary, able to cause such a commotion at such a young age. He will not be simple. You must not be impolite. Huang Mengjun spoke, looking at Huang Linger and the other 3, in the future, that Spirit Sparrow Terrace will be opened. This is a grand occasion for our clan, and all qualified disciples can participate. You should know the rules. Whoever can ascend the Spirit Sparrow Terrace, no matter who it is, will be the Spirit Lord of our Phoenix clan. This is the rule of the clan, you must make good use of it. As her words fell, Huang Mengjun's figure left, saying, Nirvana Divine Pool, Soul Devouring Divine Ant King, I am unable to make a decision on this matter. I need the divine ancestor to make a decision. Spirit Sparrow Terrace. Hearing this, the eyes of Huang Linger and the other three rippled. Fourth sister's bloodline is the highest. It seems that she has the greatest chance of ascending the Spirit Sparrow Terrace this time. As Huang Mengjun left, the valiant and beautiful woman in the stone hall looked at Huang Linger and smiled. The opening of the Spirit Sparrow Terrace will bring great opportunities to our clan every time, but no one has ever been able to ascend the Spirit Sparrow Terrace. The ancestors of the clan have left a message that the Spirit Sparrow Terrace only awaits the fated ones. Whoever can ascend the Spirit Sparrow Terrace will be the Spirit Lord of our clan, able to command our clan. Perhaps third sister is the most fated one, or perhaps it will be eldest brother or second brother. Huang Linger smiled, like a colorful lotus blooming, stunning and moving the world. Fourth sister has reached the Nirvana stage, and her talent is the highest. She is indeed the most hopeful, and the hope of our Phoenix clan. Although third sister has not reached the Nirvana stage, she has cultivated for so many years, and has the most thorough understanding of our clan's supreme beast. Second brother is the most battle-hungry, and also has the most perseverance and willpower. He also has a chance. In the end, the man who hadn't spoken until now spoke. He was the oldest, but he also looked extremely young. He wore a long robe embroidered with 5-colored phoenix patterns. His eyes were deep, shining with 5-colored light. He stood there quietly, and no one could ignore him. The four of us are the future of the Phoenix clan. I know that everyone wants to become the next clan leader, including me. However, no matter how much we compete in the dark, we are still siblings. We can compete, but we can't fight. Competing is for the sake of becoming stronger. Fighting will only destroy our relationship as siblings. The long-robed man spoke. His voice was calm, and his eyes were suffused with divine light. Big brother is right. Huang Linger and the other two nodded. They were extremely respectful towards this usually taciturn big brother. Now that the Spirit Sparrow Terrace has opened, we have to give it our all. Even if the other four factions succeed, it will affect our faction, the long-robed man said. Big brother, what if Sister Zi Xian ascends the Spirit Sparrow Terrace? The valiant woman smiled. Hearing this, the long-robed man's eyes secretly flickered. After a while, he looked at Huang Linger and asked softly, Fourth sister, I heard that Zi Xian and the Demon King Du Xiaofu seem to be quite close, right? Demon King Du Xiaofu is the Purple Dragon Emperor's godfather, and Sister Zi Xian is the Purple Dragon Emperor's godmother. As for the details, I don't know. Huang Linger said, and her 7-colored eyes secretly flickered. Demon King Du Xiaofu, Long San, Long Si, and the other brothers were all killed by him. The long-robed man said with a calm expression. The next day, Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, Little Xingxing, and the others, led by Zi Xian, boarded the carriage left by Huang Linger yesterday and went to the banquet. Wudong Mountain was full of spirit qi. This was an ancient land with beautiful mountains. Spiritual qi rose like mist and assaulted their faces. If one could cultivate here all year round, their cultivation would be twice the result with half the effort. Whoosh whoosh, in midair, there were blazing and powerful auras fluctuating from time to time, and many figures flew into the distance, maintaining a respectful attitude towards the carriage. Zi Xian looked through the window of the carriage and saw many figures flying away, and said to Du Xiaofu and the others, the banquet set up by the patriarch today is actually an advance warm-up for a grand event of the Phoenix clan. There will be representatives of the younger generation of the clan participating. According to tradition, there will be some challenges between the clan's disciples at that time, and the winner will receive a reward from the clan. There are so many strong people, Du Xiaofu didn't use his mind to spy. This was the Phoenix clan, and casually using his mind to spy would be disrespectful to the Phoenix clan, and it would be rude. However, relying on the keen power of his soul to spy, Du Xiaofu didn't find it difficult to sense that there were many powerful auras fluctuating in the surroundings. A moment later, the carriage arrived at a mountain range steaming with scarlet qi. This mountain range was like a hibernating place for phoenixes. There were flaming parasol trees all over the mountain range, and there was an ancient aura permeating the air. In front of the mountain range, there were many disciples of the Phoenix clan lining up to be checked before they could enter. This is the core area of my Phoenix clan. Only important disciples and important guests of the clan can enter, Zi Xian said. They also had to walk out of the carriage to be checked. This was the core area of the Phoenix clan, and it was difficult for others to sneak in. Greetings, Princess Zi Xian. When the disciples of the Phoenix clan saw Zi Xian walk out of the carriage, they immediately bowed. However, their gazes were immediately sizing up Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, and Little Xingxing. That's the Demon King Du Xiaofu, the Purple Dragon Emperor, and the Demon Emperor Du Xiaoyao. The Demon King Du Xiaofu. Is that the black-haired, purple-robed man? He doesn't look like the rumored ferocious person who dares to eat the descendant of the true dragon alive. Whispers were heard in the crowd. Many of them had heard the rumors that the Demon King Du Xiaofu and the others had arrived at the Phoenix clan. Many disciples were surprised and wanted to see them. As Du Xiaofu appeared, some people recognized him, and it instantly caused a lot of commotion. Among them, there were many women of the Phoenix clan whose eyes flickered. Under Zi Xian's lead, Du Xiaofu and the others were given priority to pass the inspection. This kind of inspection was only to prove their identity. With Zi Xian around, everything was rather simple. On the other hand, the inspection of the disciples of the Phoenix clan was very strict. There would be an old man holding a piece of simple jade to inspect its beast soul, strictly preventing anyone from sneaking into the core area of the Phoenix clan. After passing the inspection, there was a group of towering mountains in front of them. The fiery parasol trees blotted out the sky and were vast and majestic. Standing before them, one couldn't help but feel small and insignificant. I sense my mother's aura. It seems like she's summoning me from somewhere, but I can't sense where she is. Little Xingxing said. She sensed a certain kind of guidance from the Phoenix clan. It was the aura left behind by her mother. However, this aura was very ethereal and Little Xingxing couldn't sense the exact location. Wait and see. Slowly search. Don't act rashly. Du Xiaofu said softly to Little Xingxing. One must know that Little Xingxing was a dragon's. The dragons and phoenixes had always been at odds. Although Zi Xian was around, if Little Xingxing were to search everywhere in the Phoenix clan, it would inevitably cause some unnecessary trouble. Moreover, they had just arrived at the Phoenix clan yesterday and shouldn't act rashly. In fact, Du Xiaofu was also very puzzled. Little Xingxing had the bloodline of a true dragon. How could her mother be the legendary vermilion bird? This was also somewhat inconceivable. If that's really the case, mother will bring you around to search. Zi Xian pulled Little Xingxing in and said. She believed in Little Xingxing's words. She had heard Little Xingxing mention this yesterday. Whoosh whoosh, soon after, everyone left. They didn't take the carriage anymore. Instead, they leaped onto the back of a fiery spiritual bird. Demon King Du Xiaofu. Rumor has it that he killed many true dragon descendants of dragons. He is incomparably powerful. It's hard to find a match among his peers. As Du Xiaofu and the others left, the youngsters of the Phoenix clan started to whisper and discuss again. Princess Zi Xian and the fourth princess of our clan are equally powerful. A youngster with an extraordinary temperament said. Seeing that many girls were attracted to the Demon King Du Xiaofu, he couldn't help but feel jealous. Princess Zi Xian and the fourth princess are indeed powerful. However, the Demon King Du Xiaofu seems to be even more powerful. There are so many rumors. They aren't baseless, right? A charming girl said. Her gaze was fixed on the tall and straight back of the purple-robed black-haired man. Even if she was a descendant of the Phoenix clan, she was still moved by the ferocious man who left behind countless legends. That golden-robed man should be the demon king Du Xiaoyao. It is said that he is also a Nirvana realm expert. His original form is the red-bone horse monkey. Some girls also took notice of Du Xiaoyao. They were attracted by his innate temperament. Humph, we still have the first prince and the second prince. If it wasn't for the fact that the first prince and the second prince had already broken through the martial domain realm and entered the divine domain realm last time, there wouldn't be as much limelight as the demon king Du Xiaofu. There were some youths who were unconvinced. No matter what, hearing a woman from their clan praising humans and demon spirits made them feel unhappy. The younger generation of the Phoenix clan is really not bad. Naturally, the discussion behind him couldn't escape Du Xiaofu's attention. He smiled and ignored it. However, Du Xiaofu was secretly surprised by the younger generation of the Phoenix clan that he had just seen. Generally speaking, the disciples of the Phoenix clan were stronger than their peers in the legalism, school of famers and school of vertical and horizontal. The younger generation of the Phoenix clan is indeed not weak. However, with your strength and cultivation, you shouldn't be interested in them. Zi Xian rolled her eyes at Du Xiaofu. She knew that the younger generation of the Phoenix clan wasn't weak. However, compared to these guys in front of her, they were far from enough. Even Little Tiger couldn't be compared to them. However, among the younger generation of the Phoenix clan, you have to be wary of Feng Han and Feng Chu. However, they can't be considered as the younger generation. They have already cultivated for many years. They are of the same generation as the dragons, Long Yi and Long Air. In addition, Feng Wu is also not bad. There are also a few outstanding youngsters in the Swan Ni, Hong Hu, Qing Wan and Swan Ni bloodlines. Zi Xian said. Feng Han, Feng Chu, Feng Wu. Du Xiaofu remembered these three names. Yesterday, he had inquired some information from Zi Xian. Since he had entered the Phoenix clan, he naturally had to know some details about the Phoenix clan. Chapter 1820. Yesterday, Du Xiaofu learned from Zixuan that Feng Han, Feng Chu, and Feng Wu were Huang Ling, Er's eldest brother, second brother, and third sister. The three of them were extraordinary, but because they had already broken through to the martial domain realm, they did not enter the divine domain space last time. Feng Chu likes to fight, Feng Wu likes crowds, and Feng Han, Zixuan narrowed her eyes, and there was suddenly some fluctuation in her beautiful purple eyes. She paused for a moment before continuing, Feng Han is the most unfathomable. I'm just here to visit. There shouldn't be any trouble. Du Xiaofu smiled. He did not intend to cause any trouble by coming to the Phoenix clan. However, after hearing Zixuan's words, he was inwardly shocked. In the Phoenix clan, just the main bloodline of the Phoenix clan had several outstanding people, and there were 4 other bloodlines. This was enough to prove that the Phoenix clan was really terrifying. All this time, the Phoenix clan had only shown the tip of the iceberg to the outside world. Originally, you shouldn't have caused any trouble by coming to the Phoenix clan. However, according to what I know, although the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan and the Phoenix clan have no enmity, the two clans seem to have been secretly competing. You are the young clan leader of the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan. Now that you have come to visit the Phoenix clan, it might be seen as a challenge. At that time, there might be people who are not convinced. Zixuan raised her eyebrows slightly and said indifferently. Hearing this, Du Xiaofu frowned slightly, and a bitter smile appeared on his face. If this was true, it would be easy to cause some trouble. However, Du Xiaofu did not care too much. With his current cultivation and strength, as long as it was not those Saint Realm experts of the Phoenix clan who attacked him, he was not afraid of any trouble. In front of him, there was a series of mountains surrounded by spirit fog, and multicolored light shot into the sky. It was magnificent and majestic. Chirp chirp, many spiritual birds spread their wings and chirped. Their auras were vigorous and powerful, and their voices pierced through the clouds and cracked stones. Any one of them was enough to be ranked among the top experts in the outside world. On the ground, medicinal fragrance assailed the nostrils. There were natural treasures and medicines everywhere in the mountain range, and they were suffused with multicolored light and fluctuating energy. What a treasure land! Du Xiaoyao, Du, and little tiger Du could not help but drool. It really is a treasure trove. Du Xiaofu also sighed in admiration. Mount Wudong was such a treasured land. This was the foundation of the Phoenix race, and even the ancestral land of the golden-winged rock race was slightly inferior. However, when Du Xiaofu thought about how he still possessed a divine domain, he felt much better. It was just that his cultivation base was not high enough to control it. Du Xiaofu estimated in his heart that once he could control the space of the divine dominion, if he wanted to use it as the headquarters of the world society, it wouldn't be too far away from the foot of Wudong Mountain. "We're here." While Du Xiaofu was secretly amazed, Zi Xian's voice sounded. Following Zi Xian's words, Du Xiaofu looked ahead, and an incomparably majestic mountain appeared. There were towering flaming parasol trees in the surroundings. On top of the mountain, there were ancient palaces that looked like heavenly palaces. In front of the mountain, there was a phoenix stone sculpture that was close to 100 zhang tall. It was filled with runes, as if it was a living creature. It was filled with an ancient supreme pressure, causing one's heart to tremble and respect to it to arise in their hearts. This is the Phoenix Ridge of Mount Wudong. Only the strongest and most powerful elders and descendants of the Phoenix race can reside here. Zi Xian said to Du Xiaofu, little Xingxing, and the rest. There are so many talisman arrays from ancient times. Once they are activated, their power will be extraordinary. Du Xiaoyao sighed. She instinctively felt that there were many ancient talisman arrays residing here. Once they were activated, their power would definitely be extraordinary. As expected of the Phoenix race from ancient times. They are one of the most powerful races. Du Xiaofu also sighed inwardly. Just from what he saw along the way, he could imagine how powerful the Phoenix race was in the past. Such a large race had been passed down since ancient times and had not declined. They were indeed worthy of being called the Supreme Beast race. They could look down on all living beings and were high and mighty. Under Zi Xian's lead, everyone walked into the mountain and arrived at a vast and ancient square. There were towering flames around the square. The lush parasol trees were like burning divine flames, but they could not cover the square. It was enough to show how vast the square was. At this moment, there were many young figures standing in the square. They were all outstanding and extraordinary. With the arrival of Du Xiaofu and the rest, there was a lot of commotion in the crowd. Du Xiaofu's gaze swept across the crowd. Among these young figures, there were also many figures that he had seen in the space of the divine domain, or in the outside world with Huang Ling. Du Xiaofu secretly spied on them with his mind. He could already feel that these young people of the Phoenix race were not ordinary. Since they could appear in this square at this moment, they were naturally not weak. There were also some young people who were rushing over one after another. After arriving at the square, they silently stood behind the crowd in front. Du Xiaofu even saw many humans in the square. They were all battle servants of the Phoenix race. However, these battle servants were very powerful. There were even battle servants in the domain realm. These powerful battle servants in the domain realm had a higher status than the ordinary disciples of the Phoenix race. The Phoenix race also valued battle servants who could reach such a level of cultivation. Rock Emperor, we meet again. An elder greeted him with a smile. It was the elder of the Phoenix race who had been to the desolate country not long ago. After he returned, he had greatly praised Du Xiaofu in the race. Greetings, elder. Du Xiaofu smiled. He had a good impression of the elder of the Phoenix race. He glanced around and saw many experts of the phoenix race following behind the elder. "This way, please." The elder led Du Xiaofu to the side of the square. At this moment, there were many seats set up under an exceptionally huge flaming parasol tree. There were many delicacies, spirit fruits, and nectar on the stone table. Some of the seats were already occupied by some elders, old women, and middle-aged men. Their auras were concealed, but each of them had a powerful aura. There were many young experts following behind them. Sitting on the left side of the seat of honor is the great elder from the purple flame demonic phoenix bloodline. Next is the second elder from the main bloodline of the phoenix race. The third elder is from the blue Luan bloodline. The fourth elder is from the swan bloodline. The fifth elder is from the swan bloodline. This is the highest elder group of the phoenix race. If there is a big matter, the unanimous decision of the elder group can overturn the decision of the patriarch, Zi Xian whispered to Du Xiaofu through voice transmission. Du Xiaofu nodded silently and observed the elders according to Zi Xian's introduction. The great elder was from the purple flame demonic phoenix bloodline. She was a purple-haired old woman with a restrained aura. She looked very kind. The second elder was a red-haired old man. He was skinny and although his aura was restrained, his eyes were very sharp. The third elder, the fourth elder, and the fifth elder were all elders. They should have cultivated for a very long time. Their cultivations were extraordinary. However, with Du Xiaofu's current level of cultivation, he did not feel any pressure when facing the elders of the phoenix race. Du Xiaofu used the power of his sharp soul to spy on them. The cultivation of the great elder, the second elder, and the other elders was about the same level as the great elder and the second elder of the golden rock race. These are the respected elders of our race. The elder who was familiar with Du Xiaofu introduced the great elder and the other elders to Du Xiaofu. As for the other elders, Du Xiaofu had already met some of them after coming out from the divine dominion on the Chenhuang continent. "Greetings, elders." Du Xiaofu bowed as a junior. He was neither servile nor overbearing. "You are so extraordinary at such a young age. It is true that the new generation excels the old." The great elder spoke to Du Xiaofu in a benevolent manner. The second elder, the third elder, the fourth elder, and the fifth elder only nodded slightly. Although they were not too arrogant, they were not particularly enthusiastic either. It was a normal courtesy. However, these elders were also secretly sizing up Du Xiaofu, and their hearts were secretly stirred up. Their senses were extremely sharp. They could feel an invisible pressure. The pressure seemed to be above that of a supreme. It made their beast souls tremble for no reason. The clan leader has arrived. At this moment, a voice came from the square. A dazzling light filled the air and suddenly appeared in the void above the square. Then, a total of 5 figures appeared under the flaming parasol tree in an instant. The dazzling light dissipated. "Greetings, clan leader." All the disciples of the Phoenix clan in the square immediately saluted. Their voices resounded and echoed in the ancient square. The elders on the seats also began to stand up. Du Xiaofu squinted his eyes and looked at the dazzling light dissipating. A total of 5 figures appeared under the flaming parasol tree. Among the 5 figures, Du Xiaofu saw Huang Ling, at first glance. In the middle of the 5 figures was a beautiful woman. The beautiful woman was wearing exquisite clothes with phoenix patterns engraved on them. She was gorgeous but not graceful. She was simple but not dull. She had a noble temperament. Her cultivation is not bad. She is not below my foster father. She should be the current clan leader of the Phoenix clan. Du Xiaofu sized up the beautiful woman. From the hidden aura on her body, he could feel that she was powerful. She was not below his foster father, Jialo Changtian. "Elders, please dispense with the formalities, all dispense with the formalities." The beautiful woman spoke and nodded to the great elder. She then waved her hand and said to the disciples in the square. Every single action of this beautiful woman seemed calm, but there was an invisible pressure of a supreme being. Under that calm aura, if it were to surge, it would be able to change the color of the sky and shake the world. Greetings, clan leader. Du Xiaofu saluted Huang Mengjun. She was the clan leader of the Phoenix clan, one of the most powerful experts in the world. In the face of such an existence, Du Xiaoqing and Little Tiger also saluted. Little Xingxing and Du Xiaoyao were very casual and did not exchange too many pleasantries. You are so extraordinary at such a young age. You don't have to be so polite. Huang Mengjun sized up Du Xiaofu and there was a fluctuation in her eyes. She found that she could not see through the aura of the purple-robed man in front of her. Under her probing, it was unfathomable. There was also an invisible aura that caused her heart to inexplicably tremble. Chapter 1821. Huang Mengjun felt that she only felt this way when facing the divine ancestor of her clan. However, the young man in front of her had clearly not stepped into the saint realm. As soon as she finished speaking, Huang Mengjun waved her long sleeves and sat down on a simple chair behind her. Under her calm aura, there was an imposing aura, and her every movement exuded an invisible pressure. Little friend, please take a seat. Huang Mengjun's gaze swept over Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, Little Xingxing, Du Xiaoqing, and Little Tiger. Finally, it landed on Du Xiaofu's hair. A little fellow the size of a fingernail was quietly entrenched in Du Xiaofu's hair. Under the invisible pressure of the surrounding pressure, it was somewhat fearful and hid its aura. However, Huang Mengjun did not leave any trace. She only swept her gaze over them, and then curiously looked at Little Xingxing and Du Xiaoyao. A familiar elder stepped forward and arranged for Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, Little Xingxing, Du Xiaoqing, and Little Tiger to sit down. The first elder and the other elders of the Phoenix clan, as well as other elders with high status, also sat down in order. Delicious. Du Xiaoyao, Little Xingxing, and Du Xiaoqing did not stand on ceremony. They had long been eyeing the bejeweled nectar and spirit fruits on the stone table. They did not mind the gazes of the other elders of the Phoenix clan. They ate the fruits in their mouths, held the fruits in front of them, and stared at the other fruits nearby, afraid that there would be none left if they were too slow. Little Tiger, on the other hand, was more restrained. His mental fortitude was much stronger than Du Xiaoqing's, but he was almost drooling. He had been holding it in. Looking at the way Du Xiaoyao, Little Xingxing, and Du Xiaoqing ate, Du Xiaofu couldn't help but have a feeling that perhaps he shouldn't have brought these fellows to the Phoenix clan. They were simply like the reincarnation of hungry ghosts. They were too unsightly. The group of elders of the Phoenix clan looked at Du Xiaoyao, Du Xiaoqing, and Little Xingxing's table manners. For a moment, they seemed to have not recovered from their shock. They were all stunned and dumbfounded. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu felt several gazes fall on him. Following the gaze, he saw the two men and one woman standing beside Huang Linger. The woman was dressed in red. Her eyebrows were like willows, and her face was as white as snow. Her figure was outlined and she was covered with a cloak of the same color. She was noble and valiant. Her temperament was quite similar to Jialo Kaling's, but she had an extra kind of nobility and was less domineering. One of them was a young man with a handsome face. His eyes were filled with multicolored brilliance. His long red hair was draped over his shoulders. His posture under his battle robe was tall and straight. He looked extraordinary. The other long-robed man was sitting quietly. However, it was impossible to forget him. It was as if his body was emitting an invisible light. The long-robed man's aura was even more unfathomable. However, Du Xiaofu secretly felt that the long-robed man's aura was even more vigorous than the Phoenix clan's fourth elder, fifth elder, and even the third elder. He was definitely an extraordinary existence. Du Xiaofu frowned slightly. The red-haired man was looking at him with a fiery gaze. The long-robed man's gaze seemed calm, but it was deep. Faintly, he gave Du Xiaofu a dangerous feeling. It should be Huang Wu, Feng Chu, and Feng Han. Du Xiaofu already had a rough idea of the identities of those three people. It's almost time. Let's begin. As everyone sat down, Huang Mengjun said. Buzz, the low and melodious sound of the bell resounded above the square. The elder who was familiar with Du Xiaofu stood up and said to the younger generation in the square, everyone can begin. You are free to challenge, but do not overdo it. Do not deliberately use heavy blows. Those who surround will be severely punished by the clan. The winner will be rewarded with time to enter the secret land of the true phoenix to comprehend. Boom, as the elder's voice faded, the square was in an uproar. Then, a figure flashed out and fought to the center of the square. It was a red-robed young man. He was extremely outstanding. His blazing aura spread out. His gaze was sharp as he looked around the square and said, Feng Yu, who will accept the challenge? Ziling of the Swanni lineage. A young man in purple clothes suddenly jumped to the center of the square. He was not afraid of Feng Yu. As the two of them entered the square, the atmosphere in the square immediately became tense. Their auras overflowed as they stared at each other. Their blazing auras spread out. Feng Yu and Ziling are both well-known figures among their peers. Both of them have entered the space of the divine domain and are already at the peak of the beast sovereign level. They don't know who will win and who will lose. Looking at the two of them in the square, the surrounding people started to whisper. Some of their gazes instantly became fiery. For this warm-up, they had been preparing for a long time. At this moment, the curtains had finally been raised. They wanted to show off in front of the patriarch and the elders. Under the flaming parasol tree, even many elders and protectors were interested at this moment. Little friend, please do as you please. These are all spiritual fruits unique to my Phoenix clan. Even for cultivators of the domain realm, they have the effect of calming the mind and strengthening the state of mind. Don't be shy. Huang Mengjun smiled and said to Du Xiaofu, I just happened to encounter some of the younger generation of my clan. Little friend, you have already surpassed your peers. If you have any shortcomings, please give them some pointers. The Phoenix clan is a sovereign beast clan. The disciples of the clan are all outstanding and definitely extraordinary. Even if their cultivation is insufficient now, they will become great talents in the future and be able to look down on their peers. Du Xiaofu said. Although his words were somewhat polite, they were not completely polite. The younger generation of the Phoenix clan could indeed look down on their peers in the outside world. Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, many of the elders of the Phoenix clan were very pleased. Huang Mengjun also secretly smiled. Bang bang, while Du Xiaofu was speaking, the young man called Feng Yu and Ziling in the square had already directly confronted each other in a series of low and muffled sounds. Tyrannical energy collided. The various beasts of the Phoenix clan clashed, and a series of explosions erupted in the square. This square was obviously supported by a great array. Even a domain realm cultivator would find it difficult to shake it, allowing the two to fight without any scruples. Chirp chirp, as the two figures flashed, in the midst of the low and muffled sounds, it did not take long for them to skip the warm-up. They directly activated the true body of the Phoenix and the purple flame demonic Phoenix and threw themselves into the fight. One of them was from the Phoenix clan's main bloodline, and the other was the true body of the purple flame demonic Phoenix that was not inferior to the Phoenix clan's main bloodline. Their cultivation was similar, both were peak existences at the sovereign realm. The fierce battle was very intense, and the attacks were endless. Blazing flames and purple flames rose into the void. The cultivation strength of these two people could be considered as representatives of the younger generation of the Phoenix clan. The surrounding figures were unable to take their eyes off them, and some elders were also secretly paying attention. After a few hundred exchanges, Feng Yu's fierce attacks slowed down a little. It seemed that he had consumed a lot of energy and was somewhat powerless to continue. Ziling took the opportunity to counterattack. She seized the opportunity and activated her fiercest attack. In the end, she narrowly defeated Feng Yu amidst many cheers. Good job, Ziling. The victory of the young man called Ziling received a lot of cheers. This was especially true for the disciples of the Swanee lineage, who cheered for him. The first elder's gaze was calm, but there was an invisible aura that was as steady as Mount Tai. On the other hand, the second elder was inwardly moved. The Phoenix clan's main bloodline's defeat did not look good for them. Du Xiaofu had also watched the entire process very carefully. The battle between Ziling and Feng Yu was indeed extraordinary. If it was in the human clan of the outside world, it would indeed be difficult for anyone of the same level of cultivation to be mentioned in the same breath. This was the strength of the Phoenix clan. There was something that surpassed others. There was a reason why the Phoenix clan was known to be able to look down on their peers. Following that, many figures began to fight in the square. The people of the Swan, Qingwan, and Swanee clans also walked out one after another. After a few rounds of fighting, the Phoenix clan's main bloodline finally turned the tables a few times, causing the second elder's expression to look much better. Du Xiaofu drank bejeweled nectar and nibbled on a spiritual fruit as he seriously observed the battle in the square. It was a rare opportunity to see the methods and beast abilities of the various bloodlines of the Phoenix clan. He could understand more about the Phoenix clan. However, although the battle in the square was very exciting, and there was even a battle at the martial domain realm in the end, causing a heated uproar. The cheers and shouts were very hoarse and echoed endlessly in the void. However, to Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, and little Xingxing, this could only be considered as curiosity and excitement. They nodded their heads in praise, but it was not to the extent of being truly moved or surprised. After all, the difference in cultivation level meant that their horizons were completely different. They were no longer on the same level, and the things they saw were no longer the same. After a few more rounds of intense battles, some won and some lost. Du Xiaofu paid careful attention. The people of the Phoenix clan's main bloodline still won more. The Purple Flame Demonic Phoenix clan did not have many people, but their average talent was not inferior to the Phoenix clan's main bloodline. The Qingwan, Swanee, and Swan clans were second, but they were definitely not ordinary. Whoosh! The sound of wind breaking was heard, and a man with a well-defined face landed in the center of the square. It's Commander Feng Ai. He can't help but go on stage. I didn't expect Commander Feng Ai to also go on stage. Who dares to go up and accept the challenge? When the man with a well-defined face went on stage, the atmosphere around the square reached a small peak. Whispers could be heard, and there were even intense cheers and shouts. It was enough to see how high the status of the man called Feng Ai in the Phoenix clan was. Amidst the cheers and excitement, the man called Feng Ai looked around. In the end, he looked at Du Xiaofu, who was sitting under the flaming parasol tree, and said in a loud and sharp voice, Feng Ai of the Phoenix clan's main bloodline wants to challenge the young patriarch of the golden-winged Great Rock. Under the flaming parasol tree, Du Xiaofu was biting a spiritual fruit with his mouth open. When he heard this, his eyes suddenly raised, and a trace of emotion flashed across his eyes before he quietly restrained it. It seemed that some small trouble had really come looking for him. Chapter 1822. When such a challenge resounded in the square, the surroundings fell silent for a moment, and then an uproar broke out. Feng Ai's status in the Phoenix clan was not low, and he was definitely one of the best among his peers. His challenge to the young master of the golden-winged Great Rock clan, the Demon King, who was already famous in the outside world, immediately aroused everyone's passion and excitement. Whoosh whoosh, immediately, many gazes in the square turned to Du Xiaofu, who was under the flaming parasol tree, and waited for Du Xiaofu's reaction. Under the flaming parasol tree in the square, the eyes of many elders of the Phoenix clan secretly flashed. Huang Linger and Zi Xian's expressions changed, and even Patriarch Huang Mingjuan's eyes flickered slightly. Feng Ai's cultivation is only at the sealed domain level of the beast region. Him challenging you is probably just the beginning. This matter might not be simple. Zi Xian was startled by this sudden challenge, and then she sent a voice transmission to Du Xiaofu's ears. If someone at the sealed domain level wants to challenge you, there should be someone behind him. Du Xiaofu was only stunned for a moment, then he opened his mouth and took a bite of the spirit fruit that was about to reach his mouth with a crunch. He did not take it to heart. The challenger was not the main character. Du Xiaofu chewed on the spirit fruit and looked at the elders of the Phoenix clan and Patriarch Huang Mengjun. His gaze was calm as he said, "This is a competition between the disciples of the Phoenix clan. I'm afraid it's not very good for an outsider to participate, right? It's fine. This is a small test of our clan. According to the rules, disciples of the clan can challenge anyone, including distinguished guests." The valiant woman beside Huang Linger spoke. She looked at Du Xiaofu with interest and smiled. "Moreover, you are the young master of the golden-winged Great Rock clan. Feng Ai intends to ask for your guidance, which is in accordance with the rules. I also want to see the legendary demon king Du Xiaofu's glory." "Is that so?" Du Xiaofu smiled. He roughly knew the identity of the woman who spoke. She was the third princess of the Phoenix clan, Huang Wu. According to Zi Xian, her personality was very lively. He secretly guessed that this Huang Wu should not be the person behind this. Hearing Huang Wu's words, the elders' eyes flickered. They didn't say anything and quietly waited for Du Xiaofu's response. Huang Mengjun didn't say anything either. Her eyes changed as she looked at Du Xiaofu with interest. A faint smile appeared on her face. In the square, looking at Du Xiaofu, who did not give him much of a reaction, the man called Feng Ai raised his eyebrows and continued, "Could it be that the young master of the golden-winged Great Rocks doesn't dare to accept the challenge? Trouble is coming. I'm afraid I can't hide from it. Let's see who's behind me." Du Xiaofu murmured in his heart. Feng Ai kept saying that he wanted to challenge the young master of the golden-winged Great Rocks and not the Rock Emperor of the desolate country. It seemed that he still had a lot of pride in his heart. This time, although Du Xiaofu did not come here on behalf of the golden-winged Great Rocks, at this point, he could not bring shame to the name of the golden-winged Great Rocks. Du Xiaofu also wanted to see who exactly was behind Feng Ai. Otherwise, he was afraid that he would be affected if he wanted to borrow the Phoenix clan's Nirvana Divine Lake. Phew, a slight smile appeared on Du Xiaofu's face as he slowly exhaled and swallowed the spiritual fruit in his hand. He clapped his hands and finally looked at the man called Feng Ai in the square. His gaze was calm and there was a smile on his face. However, when he opened his mouth, he said softly to Little Tiger, who was not far from him, "Little Tiger, the disciples of the Phoenix clan are all extraordinary. Go and exchange a few moves with them." Du Xiaofu had no intention of fighting Feng Ai himself. No matter how he won against a sealed domain realm cultivator, he would not gain any advantage. Since there was someone behind him, he would let him come out on his own. "Yes, third young master." Little Tiger stood up and his figure instantly swept out of his seat. It was as if he had turned into a bolt of black lightning and landed on the square. When his figure landed, Little Tiger's aura could no longer be concealed. His tall figure's black robe fluttered slightly. His facial features were clear and deep, like a sculpture with sharp edges and corners. "You are not qualified to challenge the third young master." Little Tiger uttered these words in front of an outstanding member of the younger generation of the Phoenix clan. His deep, dark eyes were pure black as he exuded a domineering aura that could shake the world. Du Xiaoyao, Du Xiaoqing, and Little Tiger turned a deaf ear to Little Tiger's appearance. They continued to wolf down their food and occasionally swept their gazes across the square. However, many elders of the Phoenix clan secretly raised their eyebrows when Du Xiaofu asked Little Tiger to take the stage. The first prince, Feng Han, looked at the square calmly. Demon King Du Xiaofu did not take the stage and did not even pay much attention to him. He had just casually called someone up, and he was still so arrogant. Feng Ai felt that he had suffered an absolute humiliation. He did not expect to be able to defeat the Demon King Du Xiaofu, but at this moment, the young man in front of him, who was filled with the aura of the Tiger clan, seemed somewhat familiar to him, as if he had seen him before. He had to defeat him with a crushing force to wash away his humiliation. His voice became gloomy as he looked directly at Little Tiger and said, "Tiger clan, huh? You have some guts to come up. I'll let you make the first move." "All right." Looking at Feng Ai, Little Tiger's pitch-black eyes did not show much emotion. As Feng Ai's voice fell, he took a step forward in a daze. The black rune energy in his body immediately surged out in all directions. A powerful energy pressure swept out, causing the expressions of the disciples of the Phoenix clan and the elders under the flaming parasol tree to change. "Let's do it." Little Tiger directly attacked. He did not hold back at all. As energy surged, his majestic figure took a step forward and pounced forward like a ferocious tiger pouncing on its prey. With a wave of his hand, a fierce energy storm formed in his palm and condensed into a claw mark. A fierce attack swept violently toward Feng Ai like lightning. Chi La, in front of such a claw mark, tiny pitch-black spatial cracks were torn open in space. Facing such an attack, Feng Ai's expression also changed. Flames flickered on his body, and his figure retreated mysteriously. It was as if a pair of invisible phoenix wings had spread out on his back. He actually escaped from Little Tiger's fierce claw mark. My speed doesn't seem to be enough. Feng Ai's eyes darkened, and his footsteps were mysterious. After escaping from Little Tiger's claw mark, he instantly stopped retreating and attacked. Phoenix Shadow Blazing Seal. Using the beast energy of the Phoenix clan, Feng Ai's speed was unimaginably fast. Terrifying flames condensed in his palm, and the space around his palm was burned into nothingness. Waves of phoenix cries were heard, and they were sharp enough to affect one's soul. Gee! In an instant, a huge flaming handprint formed in Feng Ai's hand. It was like a flaming phoenix swooping down from the sky and crushing Little Tiger. Feng Ai was indeed worthy of being one of the best among the younger generation of the Phoenix clan. He had stopped retreating in a short period of time, and such a powerful attack was at his fingertips. It was obvious that he was not ordinary. Humph! Facing Feng Ai's instant counterattack, Little Tiger narrowed his eyes and let out a soft snort. He seemed to have been prepared. Monstrous murderous aura and pitch-black runes instantly burst out from his pitch-black eyes. Suddenly, his aura changed drastically, and it was as if a mountain was pressing down on the square. He clenched his 5 fingers, shook his arm, and threw a punch. Roar! This punch was accompanied by a tiger's roar. The sound waves were deafening and resounded through the void. The punch was accompanied by a surging wave of black runes and directly collided with the flaming handprint. Bang, 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 such a collision caused the void to explode. Spatial ripples were torn apart, and energy ripples spread out. Feng Ai's expression darkened again. His handprint was destroyed by the latter's simplest and most violent momentum. Continue, Feng Ai's expression became more and more fierce. He used the beast energy of the Phoenix clan and used the most violent attacks to continuously attack Little Tiger. Little Tiger's aura was like a mountain. Every counterattack was the simplest and most direct, but it was extremely accurate. It was cleverly able to counterattack the weakest part of Feng Ai's attacks. If it were not for his rich combat experience and powerful beast souls, it would be absolutely difficult to achieve such control. Screech! Roar! The battle between the two had yet to use their true forms, but it was still accompanied by the cries of phoenixes and the roars of tigers. Bang, 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 every time they collided, Feng Ai's expression would become more and more solemn. After dozens of moves that were as fast as lightning, Feng Ai's face was full of solemnity. He had used all kinds of supreme beast energy of the Phoenix clan, but the latter had been extremely calm. This made him lose face. I don't believe that the Tiger clan can be compared to the true form of my Phoenix clan. Feng Ai thought to himself. With a thought, he took advantage of the moment when the moves separated after a touch. The blazing flames on the surface of his body erupted, and a terrifying supreme beast energy swept across the sky. Screech, the phoenix's cry penetrated the clouds and cracked the stones. A huge phoenix body occupied the void. It was incomparably gorgeous, and the blazing flames were full of flame runes. Its astonishing power could burn everything into ashes. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.